Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight Family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago was the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenik. And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want One Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American Top Picks.
What kind of music was that?
Okay, excuse me, Jacob. I'm trying to produce a show here. My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. We are going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 44 Font versus Aldo fight card. We're going to talk about our picks, our bets, our DraftKings plays, our monkey knife fight picks, and we're going to give you every little bit of information that we have to set you up for success. Before we do anything, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We now have 5 betting partners. We have added MyBookie and Bovada. Jump into any one of the 5, make a deposit, let me know, and I will send you $50 as a thank you. If you've already signed up for one, sign up for another, make a deposit, let me know. I'll send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. It is literally that simple. We are riding the wildest win streak in the history of win streaks. I have not lost a single dollar on bets I think we're on month number 7 now. Let's keep this train rolling. Jacob, I don't know why you're laughing at that incredible intro. We get our friends in the MMA community to do that. You're just laughing at it? What a joke.
Okay.
I'm laughing at the music.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're moving on. We're doing the show. So
Thank God.
Go. First up, at UFC Vegas 44, we have Luis Smolka versus Vince Morales. Luis Smolka, 17-7 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, alternating wins and losses. Vince Morales, 10-5 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off a solid win over Draco Rodriguez. Luis Smolka has a deceiving record because if you dig into his losses, they're against really good guys. His 2 most recent losses are submissions to Casey Kenny and Matt Schnell. He primarily is a striker, but has clean boxing, a solid pace, and great footwork. He's honestly similar to Clay Guida, who we're going to break down a little later, in that his feet are always moving. He's got a decent 4-3 striking differential and averages a surprising 2 takedowns per fight. And I say surprising because everybody's got him pegged as a striker. You dig in a little deeper, you watch some of these fights, you look at the stats, and you realize he works in his grappling really, really well. Vince Morales, a decent striker. He has okay boxing, but he makes up for any of his technical gaps with forward pressure and volume. Like Luis, he is always moving, always working something. But unlike Luis, he has legit power in his hands. He does tend to go to it a little too often. This is a really fun fight to start the card, to come back after a week off. Luis Smolka has volume, pressure, and takedowns, but not a ton of power. Vince has legit power and an actual wrestling background. Of the 2 of them, Vince is the actual wrestler. He wrestled in high school. He had some success there. Luis did not, but Luis uses his takedowns in his fight. I mentioned he averages 2 takedowns per fight. Vince Morales averages 0.2 takedowns per fight. So I'm going to go with Luis Smolka here. I see him avoiding the big shots, working in wrestling, outpacing to a win. Vince is going to try to lean on the power a little too much. I think he'll start to be a step behind on the strikes because of that. And honestly, even if Vince connects with his power, Luis has an incredible chin, and I think he'll just push through, keep up the pace, stick and move, make it work, wrestle, ride out a win. What do you think, Jakey?
Yeah, my Hawaiians, baby. We finally got another Hawaiian on the card. I love my Hawaiians. They're tough. You mentioned the guy's never been finished. I do want to note, Jill in the live chat asked if Smolka has a drinking problem. One of the reasons that she probably asked that was because Smolka was honest with himself and actually stopped drinking in 2018 because he realized it was affecting his training. And if you look at his record since 2018, he's doing really, really well. And he's moved up to the position from flyweight to bantamweight. I will say there is something interesting with this fight. I was listening to his Luis Smolka interview. So Luis Smolka trains most of the time in a Southern California gym, and one of his good training partners is Ricky Simone, right? turns out Ricky Simone, his cousin, is Vince Morales. So he mentioned Smolka said that this is kind of an uncomfortable position. He's hoping everyone will be professionals about it. He understands that Ricky, can't really divulge information. He's hoping Ricky doesn't divulge any information to Vince. So it's kind of a weird situation, but I agree. I think I like Smolka in this matchup. I think the most important thing for him in this fight is in the grappling exchanges, in the wrestling, he has to end up on top because sometimes he will pull guard. He will get in those situations where he's going to use jiu-jitsu from the bottom. But you mentioned Vince as a wrestler will control those positions. He cannot do that. Luis Smolka was a 5-1 favorite against Brandon Moreno. It was Brandon Moreno's UFC debut, and he actually lost that fight as a 5-1 favorite to Brandon Moreno. That's another interesting fact for you. I'm going Luis Smolka in this matchup. I think he needs to use his wrestling, but he has to end up on top. Vince Morales, a wrestler, but only a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I think that's Luis's easiest path to victory is to grapple, make sure you're in top position, and just work your jiu-jitsu from there. So I like Luis Smolka in this matchup, but not by a ton.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty confident in Luis. Like I said, I think his volume and the fact that he does work in wrestling, even though I mentioned Vince is the actual wrestler, Luis works in really well. It's the first bet, and honestly, so I'm riding that wild bet streak. Haven't lost a single dollar in a very, very long time, almost a full year, 7 months or whatever it is. I put a unit on Luis Smolka money line, and it might be the week off. I actually have a little more bets than I normally do this week, but I just like, Vince obviously has a path to victory, but Luis has the chin. He's got volume. He works in the wrestling. So even if Vince has that heavy power, Luis Smolka's chin holds up, man. So, I like him to win. I think he gets it done. What do you think of DraftKings? I think $8,500 is a fair price. I think it's a high-paced fight. I don't necessarily think there's a stoppage, but $8,500, that's basically smack in the middle. What do you think about either one of these guys' prices?
I could see Smolka getting a sub win, so $8,500 is definitely interesting. The only thing I'm worried about, like I said, is Vince's wrestling because Luis doesn't really defend takedowns, right? Because he's comfortable on the ground. So if you start shooting at his legs, sometimes he'll just try and grab your neck, and then all of a sudden you're getting controlled. So I don't love him at $8,500, but I could see chasing some points there.
Yeah, I'll have to see. It's a 14 fight card right now. They just added a fight, so it'll end up being 15 when it's all said and done. So, I'll see. I do like him to win. I have a 1 unit money line. I got it at -150, so I didn't get the best odds, but that line is moving. What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight strike line? A lot of people have been asking what Monkey Knife Fight is because we have a lot of new viewers every week. It's daily fantasy. They put up strike lines. You're just looking at them on the screen. These are live right now. You can go to wewantpicks.com/MKF, click sign up, start to play Monkey Knife Fight. They'll give you a deposit match. Basically, there's strike lines, and you say more or less, and you could triple your money depending on what you play. I think this is a more and more. I do think they go at it. Both pretty good volume. 84 is a real high line, but I think it's more and more. What do you think?
100% agree.
All right, more and more. wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up for one of the 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Reach out to me. Let me know, and I'll send you $50 as a thank you. It's literally that simple. We're just handing out money. Next up, at UFC Vegas 44, we have Alex Morono versus Mickey Gall. Alex Morono, 20-7 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Mickey Gall, 7-3 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, alternating wins and losses. Alex Morono is interesting because if you watch his tape, he is fantastic. Nice, clean striking, solid grappling. His body always seems to be in the right place. His footwork is solid, and he does everything he's supposed to do. But then you'll watch some other fights, and all of a sudden, he's a step behind. He's a step back. He's making poor decisions. His body is not where he's supposed to be. He's a very hot and cold fighter. He worked over Donald Cerrone recently on short notice. David Zawada a few months ago. That was a nice win. But then we've seen him completely outclassed to lesser opponents than both David Zawada and Donald Cerrone. He's a bit inconsistent. When he's on, he is on. Mickey Gall, pretty good grappler. He's got submissions both off his back and on top if he initiates the takedowns. He feels very raw, and I mentioned this when we did our early preview. If Mickey Gall didn't come into the UFC basically just to fight CM Punk. If he was able to stay on the regional scene a little longer, develop his skills, not get thrown into the fire immediately, I think Mickey Gall would be very, very good. Because what's happened, I feel like, is he was improving, immediately got to the UFC, beat CM Punk, and then he was kind of thrown in there. And he doesn't necessarily have the time to improve because he's too busy preparing for big fight after big fight, where he could benefit from a little bit of downtime and just work his skills because he is athletic. He's got good pressure. When he gets on top, he hammers away. He only has a 28% takedown accuracy. But again, when he gets on top, really solid pressure. His stand-up is not great. But, he's an athletic guy, and he does get some of these wins. He's coming off that nice win just a few months ago. Honestly, this is a pretty straightforward pick for me, though. I think Morono is the more well-rounded fighter. I think he's literally better everywhere. If this was a few months ago, before I just mentioned that Mickey beat Jordan Williams, this would be, I'd be betting the house on Alex Morono. But Mickey Gall showed some signs of life in that. He showed some improvements. That was a nice win over Jordan Williams. And he really does have a path in this fight. I do see Morono as the better striker, the better wrestler, the better grappler. The stats tell that exact same story. Mickey Gall literally has a negative striking differential of 2 to 3. He lands 2 strikes and gets hit with 3 in return, where Alex Morono lands more than 5 and is hit less than 4. Pretty clear pick. I'm going with Morono here. The line's a little too wide for me. Mickey Gall could potentially pull off an upset, but pretty straightforward pick. What do you think, Jakey?
I like Mickey Gall, backup lock of the week, plus 180. I'll probably take some action on that. I think the $9,500 is ridiculous. If you're spending $9,500 on Moreno, that is unreal, because I don't think he even admitted that he hopes that this is a kickboxing match, right? So the value in Moreno would be, I guess, to maybe knock out Mickey Gall. But I think Mickey Gall is going to come in and just shoot. And Alex Moreno says he doesn't really want to grapple. He's like a second-degree black belt, so he can do it. But he says he doesn't really want to do it in fights. So I don't think he's going to be shooting takedowns. And if you look at some of his last fights, he's been taken down, right? He was taken down 3 or 4 times versus Mean, taken down 2 of 2 times versus Kita. So Mickey Gall, while he's not, the best wrestler, he was a high school wrestler. I think the key for him here is he's got to initiate the takedowns and he's got to end up in top position. If you get Mickey Gall on top of you, I know Moreno is a second-degree black belt, but sometimes in MMA grappling and MMA wrestling, it's a little bit different. And Mickey Gall, he showed that aggression in the Jordan Williams fight. I think he brings that aggression again. You really didn't see that aggression since the CM Punk fight, and I think it was the first time since that CM Punk fight where he really felt he was a better fighter. I think he goes into this fight thinking he is a better fighter, knowing he is the better grappler. That's to be decided, but I think he knows that he's a better grappler. And I think he initiates the takedowns. I think he gets it, and I think he works him from the ground. So I like Mickey Gall in this matchup in the upset. But if this stays standing, if Mickey Gall cannot get those takedowns, he's going to be in a world of hurt, because Alex Moreno, like you said, does have the striking behind him. So I'll take Mickey Gall on the backup lock of the week. He had the big lock of the week last time, and I feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, you did have credit to you. You did have Mickey Gall over Jordan Williams, which he was a good size underdog there. I completely agree. So Alex Morono is a pretty straightforward pick for me. I'm not spending $9,500 in DraftKings. That's absurd. $9,500 is like, I think the most we've ever seen is 96. So you're saying he's a Mana Nunes level favorite here? There's absolutely no way. That pricing is way too wide. Not going to happen. There may be some value on Mickey Gall at 6,700. I actually think Alex is the better grappler too, because Mickey Gall, if he gets on top, has really good pressure, but 28% takedown accuracy, and he shoots a lot of takedowns. It's not like it's 28%, and he's shooting when he shouldn't, or he's chain wrestling, which will go against your stats. Those are just single takedowns. He's just not hitting them. But what do you think of the monkey knife fight line? 86 strikes for Morono, 48 for Mickey Gall.
It's probably one of those ones where it's this depends on how you think the fight's going to go, right? If you think Alex is going to throw more than or land more than 87, he's probably going to win the fight. So if you think it's going to be a standing fight, you probably play the more and more. If you look at my angle, I'd probably play the less, because I think Mickey Gall just goes for a takedown and tries to get a sub.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with this line. This may be a less more situation, and they both end up with like 80, 75, something like that. I do think it's somewhat competitive. I just think Alex Morono will be a step ahead the entire time. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that monkey knife fight line. Let us know in the live chat or the comments what you think about that monkey knife fight line. We'll go from there. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 different betting partners now. Jump into any one of them, make a deposit. Let me know. I'll send you $50. Hell, you could do that with all 5, and I'll send you, what's that math, $250? Sign up, let me know, and we'll go from there. Next up, at UFC Vegas 44, we have a sort of last-minute, late replacement, Jared Vanderaa versus Azamat Murzakanov. Azamat Murzakanov, 10-0, 5-0 in his last 5, making his official UFC debut. Jared Vanderaa, 12-6 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of that beating that he took, where he was just on the wrong side of that fight, and that is what it is. Azamat Murzakanov is not the biggest heavyweight in the division, but he makes up for his physical stature with legit power. He is fast. He is heavy-handed. He is a good wrestler with solid ground and pound, but his hands are so good that he does not go to his wrestling very often. Jared Vanderaa built his career on his grappling until his fight with Justin Tafa, where he turned into a volume striker. And now that he's a striker, he's got a long jab, solid distance control, clean striking overall, in addition to his size, and he still has that wrestling. People keep forgetting that he has that wrestling background because they've just seen his UFC fights, didn't do any research before his UFC fights, and I guess he's a striker. Well, the reality is he hasn't showcased his wrestling in the UFC because he's been matched up against 2 wrestling beasts so far. The dude's had 4 fights under the UFC banner. 2 of them were against savage wrestlers, and the other 2 that weren't, he beat the hell out of them. So he's 1 for 1 on his takedown attempts in the UFC, so he hasn't attempted that many. But honestly, this is a hard pick. These odds are baffling to me. If Jared was a career-long striker, I would put more stock into the fact that he has a 9-inch reach advantage in this fight, but he doesn't use his length well enough for that to be a major factor. It is a factor, but it's not as big of a deal as everybody else is making it to be. He has volume. He can stay on the outside, go back to his roots and wrestle. The issue is that Azamat will be live for a knockout at any moment, and he also has good wrestling if he decides to use it. I do like Jared here. He is my pick, but I am super nervous. The only place my money is going on this fight is I'm doing over the 1.5 round line. And you could bet the money line for plus 180 on Jared, or for plus 140, you can get the over on the round line. So I like over 1.5 rounds, plus 140. And I'll take that instead of a money line on Jared because he could potentially get knocked out. But 1.5 rounds, I see it cruising past that, no problem. What do you think, Jakey?
Yeah, quick question. In regards to Jared, are you being serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. The dude is a giant. He has wrestling. He's got the striking. All he has to do is avoid the big power speed punches from Azamat. But again, I'm not confident enough to put my money on Jared, but I am confident enough to put my money on over 1.5 rounds.
Yeah, I put my money on Azamat, and I actually got him at minus 172. And in my mind, he should be a 3 or 4-1 favorite. In my notes, I just have, can Jared survive? That's the only way I see this fight going. Can he survive? Azamat, first of all, let me get to Azamat for a second, because his very first fight, his very first professional fight, he got a first-round knockout in 10 seconds and didn't fight again for 5 years. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. If I got a 10-second knockout, I would be fighting the very next week thinking I could knock. He didn't fight for 5 more years and then got a 20-second knockout in his second fight. So the guy's got power. And you mentioned he's got wrestling, but he doesn't really use it. In my notes, I have he dumps you to kill you, meaning if you're hurt, you're up against the fence, he will dump your legs and he will TKO you on the ground. He doesn't really go to it offensively to win rounds or anything like that. He'll just kind of use his striking, and if you guys has you hurt, then he'll dump you, then he'll get on top of you and actually absolutely TKO you. I will note too, his nickname is the Professional, and he is like the most stand-up guy in the world. There was one fight where a guy he checked the guy's kick, and you could tell the guy was like limping, like I don't know if he broke his foot or whatever. Instead of jumping on him, Azamat looked at him and was like, "You still want to go?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, let's go ahead and keep fighting." He goes, "Okay," and then just like lead uppercut knocked him out. So he is a professional in there. Listen, Jared, you mentioned the wrestling against Romanov. He was taken down 5 of 7 times, absolutely controlled. I think the path to victory for Azamat is anywhere he wants it, right? He's going to win the striking if he wants to win the striking. If he wants to wrestle, I think he's probably going to out-wrestle Jared. Maybe Jared can sneak in, get that offensive wrestling going and Azamat off his back. You never really know what happens there. Maybe, all these first-round finishes, he doesn't look like a guy that would gas, but, he's never really been in those deep, deep waters. So if Jared can bring him there, I could see where you can come through on your bet or your, I guess not your bet, but your pick here with Jared. But I just think Azamat absolutely dominates his fight. Getting him at 172 was an absolute steal. I love that bet. I'm not usually a guy that bets on favorites, and I just love that 172. So
you got minus 172?
Minus 172. So I think these odds are going to keep pushing closer to 3-1. I like Azamat all the way.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying is accurate. I like Jared. Just there's a lot of random factors here, but again, my money picks don't really matter, right? Your money matters, but my money is over 1.5 rounds. And you mentioned the Romanov fight. Romanov, a massive tank of a wrestler who has power in his hands, not a great striker, but massive tank of a wrestler. I bet the over 1.5 on that, and I hammered that too. They blew past 1.5 rounds. That actually went quite a while before Jared had enough. But Jared's big, tough, and in this fight, he'll be massive. So I do like
a bigger guy. I actually think that favors Azamat because Azamat is a striker. You mentioned, I think he was a light heavyweight that's now fighting at heavyweight, but he is bouncy, on his toes, in and out. I think Jared's going to have a real issue with that speed. So we'll see what happens.
He could. I'm still good with over 1.5. Jared's a tough guy. And he's been in there. The poor guy's had a pretty hard go at it, especially for a heavyweight in the UFC. But, I like the 1.5, the over there. That's a confident bet, at least for this fight, with some plus money. You get plus 140 on that, so I'm not going to mess with plus 180 on Jared when I can just worry about the rounds. wewantpicks.com/bets. 5 different partners. I got the plus 140 at my bookie. wewantpicks.com/bets. Click on my bookie, make a deposit. Let me know. I will send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. We do not have DraftKings prices or Monkey Knife Fight lines yet because this fight is honestly brand new. I think yesterday they announced it, maybe Sunday night. So
I kind of wish they already assigned him DraftKings based on the previous odds because it feels like these odds are going to keep growing apart and he's going to end up being like $9,400, but we'll see what happens.
It's funny because Jared's replacing Felipe Lins and he actually came right in. The odds basically stayed the same. So it was a like for like kind of swap, but yeah, I imagine even though it's a 2-1 favorite, they're going to price Azamat like $9,600 or something absurd. I guarantee they will. And in that case, maybe I'll explore Jared and DraftKings, but we'll see what happens. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have a Claudio Puelles versus Chris Gruetzemacher. Claudio Puelles 10-2 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight win streak. Chris Gruetzemacher is 15-4 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off of that gritty win over Rafa Garcia. Claudio Puelles is coming off a decision win over Jordan Levitt after a long layoff. He's only 25 years old and has a good amount of experience. He's a grappler who uses kicks to keep the distance, and he's never out of a fight. We saw that with Felipe Silva, where he was on his way to a decision loss before snatching up a knee bar. He averages over 3 takedowns per fight, but he does have a negative striking differential of almost 1-2. So he is hit twice as much as he hits his opponent. Chris Gruetzemacher is coming off a nice win against Rafa Garcia. He showed grit. He showed toughness. He showed will. He is a striker. He uses his hands really well, and he likes to fight inside the pocket. He's a powerful guy, but he does rely on his power and his toughness and his striking to some extent because he does not wrestle well or often. He has 0 takedown attempts in his last 8 fights, or 0 takedowns in his last 8 fights. This is another tough fight to call. This entire card is tough fights with live underdogs, top to bottom. It's easy for everyone to pull up records and see that all of Gruetzemacher's losses are by stoppage and then declare, oh, he's soft. But isn't that the exact trap that everybody fell into when he fought Rafa Garcia? Literally everybody. Oh, Gruetzemacher's a bum. Every fight he loses, it's by stoppage. Rafa's going to win. Rafa's going to stop him. Everybody fell into that trap. And then Chris showed exactly how tough he is. And that's not how that fight went down at all. So, listen, Chris is big. He's strong. He's powerful. He does have good volume, and he's a real threat. We saw how tough he was in the last fight. The reason this is a hard pick is because Puelles has that miserable striking differential. And Gruetzemacher does have power and volume, but Puelles can grapple. And we've seen Gruetzemacher get handled in some of those matchups, which is why this is a pick 'em. With the amount of takedowns Claudio attempts, I have to go with him to end up on top. But man, I really wish Gruetzemacher was a medium underdog here because I would scoop him up in a second. So I like Puelles. He's the pick. I think he'll work in the wrestling. And Gruetzemacher's got a pretty big hole as far as the wrestling defense and those matchups, but he's got power in his hands. He's got volume. He showed how tough he is. He's not the pushover. Everybody declared him. Everybody who just reads Tapology and makes picks off of that without doing any research. He's not that pushover, but his wrestling defense is not great. And I think that's the difference here. What do you think?
Yeah, I was one of those people that picked Rafa to beat Chris. And honestly, Rafa looked good in the first round. And it was more, I think that was more about Rafa beating himself than Chris beating Rafa, right? Because he just absolutely gassed in those second and third rounds and looked awful. He was 5 for 12 takedowns against Chris. If you're looking at asking my opinion about Chris and his takedown defense, if you get him against the cage, he's very hard to take down, right? The 5 of 12 takedowns, a lot of those were Rafa open mat with trips and stuff like that. And I think that's the key to this fight. I think if Claudio, I think he should wrestle, and that's his path to victory. But if he's trying to wrestle against the cage, he could gas, man. We saw that with Rafa, and actually we saw that with Jordan Levitt in his fight against Jordan Levitt, right? So I picked Jordan Levitt against that fight. Jordan was taking everybody down, submitting everybody, and looked, decent in the first round, and then absolutely gassed and looked like Claudio absolutely embarrassed Jordan on the ground, where Jordan didn't even look like he knew what he was doing. And this guy's not an accomplished wrestler, but he's a very good grappler and wrestler in his own right. So, there was a quote that he mentioned in an interview where one of his coaches told him, "Hey, you can't wrestle for 15 minutes straight. You're going to kill yourself." And he said, "I knew that going into the Jordan fight, and I knew there was a point in that fight where Jordan just broke. He just out wrestled himself and couldn't do any more. And that's when I knew I could take over." So it's going to be interesting if he comes in with a wrestle game plan, if he kind of puts off the wrestling or if he tries to go all in at once. He did also mention he's been working with Rafael Fiziev. So that's one of the better strikers in UFC. So we'll see if his striking has improved at all. But I think the path to victory is easy for Claudio is get those takedowns. Don't gas yourself against the fence takedowns. If it's not there, reset, go back in for an open mat takedown, something like that. Because if you get a striking exchange with Chris, he's got that power. You could find yourself in some trouble. So I think Claudio's the pick here. But he's got to get those takedowns, and they got to be open mat takedowns. Otherwise, they're going to be really, really hard to get.
Yeah, and I saw some books where this fight was dead even. Obviously, the lines fluctuate throughout the day and on different books. So it is a closer matchup than a lot of people are saying. The odds are actually pretty close, but I've heard some people just talk about how this is going to be a murder and Chris Gruetzemacher sucks, which I just don't see that. And a few of you commented that Chris doesn't look like this anymore. Our images come from the UFC website. So that's what they have. So that's what we have. What do you think about DraftKings? It's basically a pick 'em. So honestly, whatever side you're on is probably a decent side.
Yeah, these are usually you want one of these guys in your lineup, right? That $8,000, if you feel real good about someone at that value, that's really good value. And I would consider Claudio, because he also, to take a kind of a page out of Dan's notebook here, he's only 25 years old, and these guys improve very, very quickly. And he actually mentioned he moved to the USA. He actually mentioned how he misses his family like crazy, but he's a young guy that dedicated himself. He moved to the USA. He's at a good camp, Sanford MMA. I think he's going to be more than ready. I actually like him at the $8,000 value.
Yeah, he's probably the better play. Chris will be live for a knockout potentially, but Claudio's probably the better play. He's cheaper, $8,000. This is a pick 'em. wewantpicks.com/bets. 5 different partners. Jump in. I saw one of you comment about BetUS. BetUS is one of the 5 partners. I personally like them. I've had no problem withdrawing money. All you need is a crypto wallet, and your money can come and go as you please instantly. And BetUS, they have the best customer service. When you log in and make a deposit, they give you a toll-free number and a dedicated agent So you can literally call that toll-free number 24/7 if you have an issue with a bet, a question about how to use the site, whatever it is. You will get a human being on that phone after calling an 800 number. Love the customer service. wewantpicks.com/bets. Jump in, sign up, make a deposit with any one of the 5. Let me know after you do, and I will send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight line? Sorry, I forgot to ask about that. I think less more.
Probably less more.
122 is just so high. And like, it's a deceivingly high because a lot of that came from the Rafa Garcia fight. And now we know how tough Rafa Garcia is too. So, you know, less more, I think, is the play. 122 is an insane number. Chris, your line is crazy. Next up, at UFC Vegas 44, we have the fight that is 10 months in the making. We have broken this down. This is the third time breaking this fight down. This has been on and off many times. COVID on each side of this fight. We have seen them both fight twice since they were supposed to fight each other. Now they're supposed to fight each other. The analysis is a bit different this time around. We have Alonzo Menifield versus William Knight. Alonzo Menifield, 11-2 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of that win over veteran Ed Herman. William Knight, 10-2 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off of the KO win over Fabio Cherant. I mentioned this fight has been booked and rebooked several times. We've seen them both fight since the initial booking. Those fights have changed things for me. I now sort of have a different opinion on how this will go than I did 10 months ago. Alonzo Menifield has great power, great takedown defense, and is looking to take your head off with every single punch. Historically, the knock on him was his cardio, and we've seen him gas in the past, but in his last fight against Ed Herman, he didn't slow down at all. It was a 15-minute decision. He looked great the entire time. He had a good pace. He still had power, still had speed, was still athletic. His takedown defense held up, and now he has cardio. He's a legitimate problem if that all holds up in this weight class. William Knight is honestly a pretty similar story. He has incredible power. He's very explosive, and he throws everything with 100% intent. Unlike Alonzo, William never had cardio issues. Also, unlike Alonzo, William will use his wrestling. He has solid wrestling offense in his fight. He averages almost 3 takedowns per fight, but with only 53% accuracy. So that's a lot of shots. But his cardio holds up. I mentioned I flipped my pick here based on the analysis that was done 10 months ago. Before Alonzo fought Ed Herman, his cardio was a mess. And I knew William could push the pace with his wrestling, exhaust Alonzo, and win from there. But now it seems like Alonzo has buttoned up his cardio. He has fantastic takedown defense at 85%. This is still a really close fight. I think these odds are actually super wide right now. This is a really close fight because of how incredibly dangerous both these guys are. But Alonzo with cardio, I got to go that side. That's got to be my pick. I'm going against Connecticut here. I'm going Alonzo. I like the cardio. These odds are a bit wide, though.
Yeah, I'm going Alonzo too, but he's just got to stay out of the firefights, right? If the more technical this fight stays, it favors Alonzo, because we saw that in the the Cherant fight with William Knight's last fight, that in those exchanges you could tell he was literally, it looked like he was about to get knocked out at any moment, because in those exchanges it's not side to side head movement that you like to see. It was that chin up, straight back. You know, even when he knocked the guy out, he was against the cage, about to run out of room. It felt like Fabio was about to knock him out, and then he just hits him with that little check shot and knocks him out. But that head movement is not going to be any good against Alonzo Menifield. But Alonzo can't get lungy, right? Because a lot of times when you see that head and you start lunging in, that's what happened with Fabio, and he got knocked out. So this fight needs to stay clean. Just keep your distance. Just piece him apart. Don't go for the knockout, Alonzo. And you'll win this fight as long as you can defend those takedowns. But if there's some firefights in here, Williams got the power, and he's got those weird angles that he comes like he's not like a normal technical striker. It's going to look weird. It's going to come at weird angles. I would be Alonzo all the way in this fight if it wasn't for that St. Preux knockout, because that was exactly what would happen in this William Knight, right? Because he was dominating that fight. He got a little too aggressive in the pocket, hands a little low, moving forward, and it was just that little check shot by St. Preux that caught him. And if William Knight hits him with that same shot, he's going to fold just the same. So I think Alonzo's a play, but he's got to just stay technical, man. He can't get into those exchanges.
I 100% agree. So if Alonzo did not get knocked out the way he did and isn't fighting somebody with, I mean, I think William Knight has less technical striking, but definitely more power than St. Preux. You're right. I mean, that will always be there as a what if. Josh Locks, you said over on rounds. The round line is 1.5. I completely agree. The problem is the bookmakers are onto it. It was like minus 200. I'm never going to spend that. Not on a fight like this. If it was even money or even minus 110, 120, I would, but not at the close to minus 200, wherever I was that I saw today. DraftKings, listen, Alonzo Menifield, $8,700. I think it's a little overpriced, but he still could be worth it. It's tricky because in order to be worth that, he's probably got to get a knockout because winning a decision, he's not going to score a ton of points. Because he's not like a million strikes, not a million takedowns.
And Alonzo's gotten some takedowns too, so maybe he uses offense. The best way to neutralize William Knight's power, we saw that in his fight versus Dung Ung or whatever. He got taken down, was just flat on his back and couldn't do anything. So if Alonzo wants to offensive grapple, that's another path to victory there, and probably the safest one, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Jesse, thank you very much for the donation. I just saw it on my phone. Appreciate that as always. You're a true OG to this channel. What's interesting, you mentioned Alonzo wrestling. We saw William Knight just get bodied that entire fight. He was just completely manhandled in the wrestling department. And, that was not a great look. That's what's playing into these odds. He did come back after that loss, knock out Fabio Charant, look way better. So, listen, Alonzo's the pick. It's the cardio that made the difference for me. But honestly, we don't even know if that cardio is here forever or if he was just really prepared for the Ed Herman fight. So that could go either way. But Jakey boy, what do you think of the strike line? I'm feeling like over. I'm feeling like more and more on the Monkey Knife Fight strike line. I do think this fight goes a little bit, but 58's a little high. I don't see Alonzo throwing a million strikes. What do you think?
I like the more and more just because I think Alonzo really plays this fight safe, and he knows the implications, right? He's 11-2. This is a big name. William Knight just had that big knockout. This could be a big moment for him. I hope he doesn't try to chase that finish. Just get your win and get out of there because you're the more technical guy in this fight.
Yep.
I play the more and more.
Yeah, more and more is probably the safe play. wewantpicks.com/MKF. It is daily fantasy. It's super easy. It's super fun. They instantly match your deposit. So if you don't even know what Monkey Knife Fight is, just go to wewantpicks.com/MKF. Sign up. They'll match your deposit. Use the free money. Play with the free money. If you enjoy yourself, great. Continue to play. Use the winnings. If you don't, no problem. Use the winnings till they're gone and then leave. wewantpicks.com/MKF. Sign up. You notice the logo under odds is MyBookie. That is a new betting partner for us. wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I will send you $50, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, literally however you want your free money. Next up, at UFC Vegas 44, we have Mallory Martin versus Cheyanne Vlismas, formerly Cheyanne Bays. Mallory
Not
Martin,
anymore.
Valerie Martin, I'm just going to get through my thing, and then you could get all weird and do your thing, breathing heavy. Just have an ice pack next to you. Mallory Martin, 7-4 overall, 3-2 in her last 5. Cheyanne, 6-2 overall, 4-1 in her last 5. Coming off of that really nice win, TKO win that started with a head kick and finished with just absolute savage. I don't want to say ground and pound because she didn't take her down, but it was ground and pound. The grounding was from a head kick. Mallory Martin is a Muay Thai striker who takes her time and picks her shots. She has genuine power, but does not set it up with combinations. She just throws one power shot at a time, and that shows in her negative striking differential. For every 2 significant strikes that Mallory lands, she is hit with almost 3, and that's because she takes her time, then throws one heavy punch. But what is important to note here is that even though she is technically a striker with a striking background, she has takedowns. She had 5 takedowns in her fight on Contender Series and 1 in each of her last 2 fights, but 1 is all she needed with her submission win over Hannah Cyphers. Cheyanne Vlismas, formerly Cheyanne Bays, a fun striker with high output and pressure with combinations. Her volume makes up for any technical gaps that she has on her feet, But even though she isn't the most technically sound kickboxer, her striking differential is an impressive 3-1. She also has an impressive takedown defense at 60%. And that 60% doesn't sound super high, but if you remove the Montserrat Ruiz fight where she was basically just taken down at will, Cheyanne has defended every single takedown attempted on her outside of that fight. I definitely think Cheyanne should be the favorite here, which she is. I do not think she's a 2-1 favorite. I think minus 190 is crazy. I think this is, she should probably be a minus 120 type favorite. Cheyanne's the better striker for sure. The judges will like her volume and pressure. They will hate Mallory's patience, but Mallory has real power. And if she implements a wrestling game plan, things could honestly get ugly. As tricky as it sounds, I think I trust Mallory more to lean on her power, lean on her wrestling, than I do for Cheyanne to just keep up the volume and stay on the outside and defend takedowns. Cheyanne recently had COVID. She's got a lot of personal stuff going on with the last name change. And honestly, that could have her a step behind. Those could be unnecessary distractions. She was supposed to fight in the last card, had to pull out due to COVID. I don't know what that's done to her lungs, which she leans on because of her pressure. Listen, this is a no money pick. I've got no money in this whatsoever. I like Mallory. I think she's a solid underdog here. Lots of takedowns. And Cheyanne, she's got good pressure, but we watched her just get taken down 1 million times against Montserrat. So anything could happen. What are your thoughts, Jacob?
Anything could happen. Great analysis. What a clown show this has become. Mallory Martin over Cheyanne. Future lines. Cheyanne, my Instagram is JT_lines. Hit me up. I'll get you in the right spot. I like Cheyanne in this matchup, but I do agree, all bullshit basically aside, I do agree that minus 190 I think is crazy for Cheyanne because that Montserrat fight, because she just laid on her back and she had no idea what to do and yet kept putting herself in that same position round after round. It was the same position, a throw, and then you can't move. To her credit, she is very upfront and honest. She said she was completely embarrassed by that loss. She said she was getting trashed online, known as the headlock girl, and she did not want to go out that way. So the last fight, she absolutely dominated. She got that head kick that was almost illegal, but it was absolutely legal, and then got the full amount with the ground and pound. I like Cheyanne in this match. As you mentioned the breakup. It will be interesting to see where her mind is at, but I will say, what's the quote? There's like no fury like a woman scorn or something. It seemed like she's the one. It didn't seem like she's the one being left, right? Because that actually is a difference, right? It seemed like she's the one initiating all this, the breakup. I feel like she's going to come in with even more aggression than she normally was. And she's got that mean streak, man. Some of these girls are fighters and some of these girls are absolute fighters. I think she's the one that got expelled from school, suspended for fighting. She's been a fighter her whole life. She's got the mean streak. She mentioned she moved from Dallas to Vegas because she wanted to be all in. This is actually when she moved with JP, but she wanted to be all in her training. She mentioned she was broke, but she didn't care because she just loves fighting so much. I love her attitude going into this fight. I do have a 3.5 bet. You can explain the 3.5 bet. I put a 3.5 bet on Mallory Martin. I think I got it for like minus 120 because I think that Cheyanne should avoid the grappling in this matchup. But I think that she's going to come in and not really be scared because she trusts herself and she wants to prove that she can grapple and can wrestle. And I think that could be a mistake. I think it could cost her a round. I still think she wins the fight, but I like the 3.5 for Mallory. Maybe early takedown, control the round, and then Cheyanne realizes, you know what, let me stay away from that, continue the striking, and win the fight. So I don't love the 9,000 for her for DraftKings. I don't really love the minus 190 for her, but I think she's going to win the fight. But I do have a bet on Mallory at the plus 3.5 that you can explain.
Yeah, so I agree. 9,000 for Cheyenne's crazy. The plus 3.5 bet, so you regulars know what it is, but everybody else, essentially you buy a single round on the judge's scorecard. You literally buy 3.5 points on the judge's scorecard, and the way that works out is it is a single round. So all Mallory Martin needs to do for Jacob to win money is win one round. She can lose 2 rounds, no problem. If she wins 1 round on the judge's scorecard, Jacob hits his bet. I just did this with Michael Chiesa. I said he's going to lose the first 2 rounds. He'll win the third because he's got great cardio. That's exactly what happened. Michael Chiesa lost the fight. I won my bet. So you're only going to find that bet at wewantpicks.com/bets and jump into Bet Online. That's the only place you're going to find that bet. We have 5 different betting partners. Every single one of them offers something different and something unique. BetOnline has the best prop bets. BetUS has the best customer service. MyBookie has a really diverse ability to do parlays. Bovada lets you cash out. So you could bet on Cheyanne Bays and Bovada, be in the second round of that fight and be like, this isn't going well. And you can cash out of your bet at, they'll value it, whatever it is at the time, but you can cash out and recoup some of your money. Or if you're up really big on a parlay, but you're worried about the last leg, you can cash out there, still be up money, not the total amount, but they'll meet you somewhere in between. wewantpicks.com/bets. Jump into any one of those 5, and I will pay you $50. If you do all 5, hell, I'll give you $250. It's that simple. So I do like that 3.5 bet. I didn't do it. I do like it. I did see a comment here saying,
hell, if you think she's going to win, that seems like a no-brainer for you.
Yeah, but man, I think she's going to win, but I'm very conservative where I spend my money, which is why I'm up money every single week. Sean V said, I'll go with whoever Angelo picks when it comes to women fights. Listen, I appreciate that. I don't even know how it happened, but I'm on some weird win streak with picking women fights. I don't know how. I'm like some idiot savant with women fights specifically.
Well, it just ended.
But Mallory Martin is one of the more aggressive picks, and all streaks come to an end. Hopefully not this week, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, my quote for this fight was, I think for Mallory to win, it's like the dirtier the better, right? The dirtier this fight gets, I think it favors Mallory Martin. Even though, Cheyanne's got that main streak, I think Mallory can control those positions a little bit better.
Yeah, and Cheyanne's volume and her striking, she's dangerous, but I don't know if we've seen enough to really be all in. We definitely have not seen enough for 9,000.
I love alpha women.
What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight strike line? I think we got to go more and more. I think this is an easy more and more. I think it goes to a decision, even if Mallory works in her wrestling. Cheyenne's got good enough volume that she can get some strikes off, make something happen. Although in that Monster Rat fight, maybe she landed 2 punches that whole fight. So hopefully it's a little more of that, but we'll see what happens. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have Manel Kape versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Manel Kape, 16-6 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Zhalgas Zhumagulov, 14-5, 3-2 in his last 5. Zhalgas Zhumagulov is very tough. He has solid power, very good wrestling. His goal is always to throw that big power, get you to react, and then work a takedown. The stats are very deceiving because while he averages almost 2 takedowns per fight, he has a 20% takedown accuracy. I have mentioned that before. I even mentioned it earlier today. That is an indication of chain wrestling and relentless pressure. It was the exact same story with Ronnie Yaya 2 weeks ago, and I picked him. You shoot a takedown, you don't get it, you move to the second transition, you don't get it, you move to the third, you get your takedown there. You did 3, you got 1, that's a 33% takedown, but the reality is that was one entry, a bunch of different motions and movements until you got that takedown. So low takedown accuracy, but high takedown average per fight. Those are chain wrestlers, and I'll take that over a 0.5 takedowns per fight, 70% accuracy. I'll take the chain wrestlers any day of the week. Manel Kape, fast, explosive striker who has absolutely no issues chasing knockouts, and he will do so with spinning attacks, flying knees, and everything in between. He's a southpaw with good pressure. He bounces in and out of range really well. He is a decent wrestler when he needs to be, and he closes distance really well when he wants to. He's very fun to watch, but at times he's having too much fun, and he makes weird IQ mistakes because he's just enjoying the moment, not paying attention to the scorecards or what's going on. It's easy to say that this is a striker versus grappler matchup, but Manel does have his own wrestling offense, and Zhalgas actually has the better striking statistics. Manel has a surprising negative striking differential at almost 5-4, so he is hit 5 times for every 4 that he lands, where Zhalgas is just a little better than a 1-to-1 striking differential. I like Zhalgas here. I like the odds are worrisome. Before I even saw the odds, I just saw the matchup, and I was like, well, Zhalgas, right? That's easy. Then I saw the odds, and I was like, what am I missing? What am I missing here that the odds makers know that I don't? So I like Zhalgas here. I know Manel has an 80% takedown defense, but he also has very low output. I see Zhalgas constantly pressuring, looking for takedowns. If he gets them, then he absolutely dominates this fight. If he doesn't, then he wins a boring cage control decision, but it's still a win. He's tough enough to not get knocked out. He has enough power to hang. His wrestling will only make Manel even more gun-shy than he already is. I have one unit. No, sorry, I don't. One unit at plus 190 odds do scare me because I feel like I'm missing something, but I do like it. The line is continuing to move. I might do that. I literally had one unit typed. I was about to hit enter, and I'm like, I might be missing something here. So I didn't do it yet, but this line is moving. We were plus 175 yesterday, plus 190 today. What am I missing, Jacob?
I don't think you're missing anything because I've never been very high on Manel Kape. Obviously, he was like a champion in other organizations, and you know he's got the striking, he's got the power, but he's a guy that I have it in my notes. He will let you win the fight because he honestly thinks that he wins every single exchange. There's no shortage of confidence in this guy. I was talking to Angelo earlier today about his Twitter feed. Go to his Twitter feed and just look. He said, you know, he's like didn't really call Zhalgas names, but said he's got like a small brain, can't understand what's going on. He said he could knock out a heavyweight right now. So there's no shortage of confidence on his side, but I think that's a detriment because you mentioned a lot of his losses are decision losses because he's really not doing enough. He thinks he's winning the fight. He feels like I'm winning every exchange. I think I'm winning the fight. So I'm just going to kind of sit back and honestly, he should be on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Pantoja, lost to Nikolai. I love Matthias Nikolai. Shout out to his girlfriend as well. And then O'Day, you could tell that he was like I don't want to say he was gonna lose that fight, but O'Day was really finding his range, really finding the connections, and then he hit a flying knee at the end of the round and knocked him out. So he got the win, but I'm not sold on Manel at all. And Zhalgas, you nailed it. If he gets the takedowns, he dominates his fight. I don't know if he's going to be able to get the takedowns the entire fight. So this is another one of those where I put a plus 3.5 bet on Zhalgas. I think it was like a minus 140, a little bit heavier, a little bit, not quite as good as odds I would have liked, but I think he definitely is going to get a takedown at least one round because I don't think he's going to get finished. And if he's able to secure takedowns throughout, a few rounds, he's a very intelligent fighter too, because his last fight, I think there was a big like controversy with the Paiva fight, right? I think everyone thought that he beat Paiva. And then the Amir fight, that's a guy that's very dangerous on the ground. But Zhalgas was still able to time a couple takedowns at the end of the first round. So he knows that even if a guy's dangerous, I can still take him down, end of the round. There's no danger to me, and I can maybe steal a round. So he's very intelligent when he fights. I think he does the same thing to Kape. Maybe just kind of toys with him with the striking, gets a leg takedown, and finds a way to win the fight. So I'm with you all the way. I like Zhalgas in this fight. I have the 3.5 bet on him. If Kape finds a way to pull out another win, then maybe I'll jump on his bandwagon. But I'm just not a huge fan of the way he fights.
What were the odds at that plus 3.5? I'm pulling it up right now. I might just do that because I'm like very confident in him to win. And the money line, these are the
I actually got it for minus 110.
Yeah, maybe I'll grab that because these are the money lines that you want, right? Like I can almost double my money. The odds makers are this wrong. But a part of me is nervous. Like, what am I missing? I have to be missing something to be this confident in somebody who's a
Manel is dangerous. I think he's a black belt as well, jiu-jitsu. So if it goes to the ground, maybe there's a weird scramble and something happens. But I just don't see a 2-1 favorite means you're pretty much better everywhere. You don't really have a hole where someone can, and you mentioned Zhalgas too is a decent striker. I think Kape's
got power at least. Yeah, he's
definitely the better striker. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'll lean on the community for this one. Let me know. I'm curious what the general sentiment is here. If you guys are with us that this is crazy and Zhalgas is going to win this fight, or if we're missing something big, or this whole thing is just a sloppy mess because Manel is coming off of that nice flying knee knockout against O'Day.
And Manel
thinks he's this killer.
He's calling he's said second round knockout. So he called a second round knockout. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll figure out a bet here. Maybe I just go money line. I do a half a unit because I'm a scared little crybaby boy. But it's funny. The longer my win streak goes, the longer my win streak goes, I'll go from like slow and steady wins the race to like more conservative to I can't lose. So I don't know how I feel, but I definitely think Zhalgas wins this fight. I'll figure out where to put some money. 0% chance Manel Kape ends up in my lineup at $9,400. No way. $6,800 though. I will have Zhalgas in there, and that frees up a lot of room for a lot of people. Monkey knife fight, interesting line, because if Zhalgas is getting takedowns, there's no 73. Manel kind of a low volume guy. So what do you think of this?
I still think it's more. I think that Zhalgas is going to have the reason why I didn't play, because I like Zhalgas to win this fight, but the reason I didn't play that 175, because I love playing those underdog bets, and the reason I wouldn't make him the lock of the week, which he's a good candidate for.
He's a fantastic candidate,
right? But I just don't know if he's going to be able to get those takedowns. I think Kape's grappling and his wrestling is underrated.
Yeah, I'll figure something out. So much of me wants to put money on him. I guess I should. It'd be stupid not to. All right, well, tune into our betting guide breakdown on Friday, where I'll have all of my final bets. Jacob will have his, and Dan will have his. Dan will be joining us in a few minutes. Jacob, text him that we're 2 fights away from the main card. wewantpicks.com/bets. Jump in any one of the 5 partners that we have. Make a deposit. Let me know, and I will send you $50, CASHAPP, Venmo, PayPal, however you want it. You can join all of them, deposit all of them. I'll pay you for all of them. Sportsbooks are not loyal to us, and we do not need to be loyal to them. Go through all of them, find the best odds, especially a fight like this. You might be able to get crazy odds. Find the best odds, play those, pick and choose. You don't need to stick with one sportsbook to have success. Next up, at UFC Vegas 44, we have Jake Matthews versus Jeremiah Wells. Jake Matthews, 14-5 overall, 3-2 coming off of a submission loss to Sean Brady in his last 5. Jeremiah Wells, 9-2 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight stoppage streak. Jake Matthews is a well-rounded guy. He's got solid wrestling, very good grappling, and a nice variety of strikes. He works angles well and has no problem mixing up body shots and head shots. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight, but the big dig on him is his fight IQ and his willingness to trade punches when he should wrestle, or his willingness to grapple when he should stand up. The guy does not make the best decision. He gets very complacent and has issues with those transitions in MMA at times. But in any one given area, he could be the better fighter. It's moving from one to the other, knowing what he should be doing when that he struggles with at times. Jeremiah Wells came back after a 2-year layoff and knocked out Warlley Alvarez. He is a big, powerful striker with explosive hands. But what everybody forgets is that Jeremiah Wells is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, an accomplished one at that. He throws wild and with intent, but the reality is that he is doing that to set up his takedowns and set up his jiu-jitsu. He's not there to strike. He's striking to grapple. This is a closer fight to call. This is another tough one. Jake has better wrestling, but so far Jeremiah has a 100% takedown defense in the UFC. Jake probably has the cleaner strikes, but Jeremiah has way more power. This fight could really go a few different directions. The biggest concern for me is Jake's decision-making skills. I mentioned before, we've seen him grapple when he should strike, or strike when he should grapple. I don't know if I could trust him at this point in his career to make the right decisions in those spots. I like Jeremiah to win the fight, but there is a clear path with the wrestling for Jake, which makes me nervous. I do have a bet on this fight. I did not go money line for Jeremiah Wells, but what I did do was inside the distance decision, no action on Jeremiah Wells, because he's so tough and very live, not only to win, but definitely for a finish. The money line is plus 140 right now. I got inside the distance decision, no action at plus 120. So I only gave up a few points. And what that bet means is if Jeremiah Wells knocks out Jake Matthews, stops Jake Matthews, beats Jake Matthews by finish, I get paid at plus 120. If Jake Matthews beats Jeremiah Wells by a decision, which is very likely with his wrestling and his grappling, I get a refund. No bet. I get my money back. No bet. Clean hands. No big deal. You're only going to get that. wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. Bet Online is the partner with that safety net prop bet. I loved it. I only gave up a few points for the protection against a decision loss. Make a deposit. Let me know. I'll pay you $50. Jakey boy. That was my very long rant. What do you think?
I just put 2 units on that bet. I absolutely love that bet. Thank you for mentioning it. I do have like a quick story here.
Don't forget to pay me out 10% when it hits.
Right. Absolutely. Always. I do have a quick story here because I'm a Jacob. He's a Jake. I will say, growing up through school, anytime there was 2 Jacobs, I was always the Jacob. The other kids were always the Jake. So I have always, my entire life, resented anyone named Jake. And for that reason, Jeremiah Wells, congratulations, sir. You are the lock of the week. We had Pat Sabatini last week. We're doubling it up. We're taking this serious now, right? So if you guys don't know, I keep reiterating, lock of the week. We had like a crazy streak in the spring. Then we kind of got a little laxadays. We started having a little.
You.
We as a group, because this lock of the week is voted on by every member of We Want Picks. We got a little lackadaisical. I blame Angelo partially for that. But we're buckling back down. I put 4 units on Pat Sabatini. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago now. Jeremiah Wells, I absolutely love him. Love him for lock of the week. But I will say, if he does get tired and this goes to the third and he loses, not my fault. If he lunges forward trying to chase a knockdown, because he will lunge forward and throw big power shots. And when he does that, his hands are a little low, his chin's a little forward. If he gets flash knocked out by Jake Matthews going forward, also not my fault. Does not count. So lock of the week is Jeremiah Wells. I'd like him, honestly, to win anywhere in this fight. Even you mentioned the wrestling. Jeremiah Wells, you mentioned his jiu-jitsu. He is a black belt. And that's a Gracie black belt. That's one of those real life black belts, those Gracie black belts. So I don't think he's gonna have any issues. Maybe with the wrestling. That's kind of why I played the inside the distance bet, decision no action, because there is that wrestling with Jake Matthews. But Jake Matthews, he's been in the UFC since he was 19 years old. So he actually might be the more experienced fighter in this fight, even though he is I can't remember if he's the younger guy, but he's got a worlds of experience. But a guy that hasn't knocked somebody out since 2013. I don't think he's going to be able to KO Jeremiah, and I think he's going to have real issues because you can't KO him. I like Jeremiah all the way. Lock of the week for back-to-back.
Well, and I mentioned in my breakdown, Jake Matthews, I can't trust him to make the right decisions. And that's because we've seen him get taken down and just chill on his back.
And I do have one, speaking of the takedowns, I have one fun fact. Since 2017, Jake Matthews has not lost a fight where he has gotten a takedown, meaning if he does get a takedown, he wins the fight. If his last 2 fights that he lost, he did not get takedown. So that's a little fun stat for you. So if he gets a takedown versus Jeremiah, it's trending towards win. So if you're playing live bets, maybe that's something you might want to play.
Well, Jeremiah Wells, decent chin, jiu-jitsu black belt. I don't see him getting stopped, and that's why I love that inside the distance decision no action bet. If you lose the decision, no big deal. I get a full refund. Obviously, we're not touching Jake Matthews at $9,100. I love Jeremiah Wells at $7,100 because I genuinely think he wins this fight. Monkey knife fight, interesting strike line because, man, Jeremiah Wells could just knock Jake's head off, or Jake could take Jeremiah down and just elbow in the face 100 times. So this is just, if you think Jake Matthews wins, probably more or more less. If you think Jeremiah wins, it's less more or less, right? What do you think?
Yeah, DraftKings is kind of interesting because I agree. I'll probably have Jeremiah in my lineup at $7,100. And we also said we're both going to have Zhalgas in our lineup at like $6,800. So that's going to free up a lot of the big favorites. But a lot of the big favorites, we don't really like that much. So yeah. DraftKings is going to be interesting this week for sure. You mentioned the monkey knife fight. What'd you say?
I said if you like Jake Matthews, it's a less more or a less less. If you like Jeremiah Wells, if you like Jeremiah,
I probably played less.
Yeah, I said that backwards, but yeah, I mean, if Jake Matthews gets takedowns, he's going to have a lot of strikes because it is every single strike that counts. Yeah, I'm not going to touch this one on draft or on Monkey Knife Fight, other than maybe Knockout Kings, where you pick any 3 fighters, any 3. And if one of them wins by knockout, you get a 25% net return on your money. wewantpicks.com/MKF. It is easy. It is fun. I get so many questions in the comments every single week. What is that? What's the strike line? What's Monkey Knife Fight? wewantpicks.com/MKF. Just click the link, sign up. They'll give you a free deposit match. Use the free money. Play with that. Don't even play with your real human money. Play with the free money. Get a feel for it. Make some money. Come back, thank us. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have Maki Pitolo versus Dusko Todorovic. Dusko Todorovic 10-2 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of 2 losses. Maki Pitolo 1-4 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight skid. This is a lose and go home type fight. Maki Pitolo is an athletic southpaw with power and volume. His UFC record is rough, but if you look closer, those were fights that he was having some success in. He was going to beat Julian Marquez in his last fight before Julian's Hail Mary submission. He had 5 takedowns in that fight, and that's important to note here because even though Maki is known as a striker with big power and volume, he has solid wrestling as well with over 50% accuracy and an average of almost 3 takedowns per fight. Dusko Todorovic is a pretty well-rounded guy. He's a technical striker. He's got power. He has takedowns and decent BJJ when he's on top. He's a high-volume guy landing almost 6 significant strikes per minute, but there are questions about his chin. This entire card is loaded with live underdogs, top to bottom, and close fights. I get why Dusko is the favorite here. He has double the volume of Maki. He has solid power. The issue, though, is his chin is questionable at times. People see the 3-fight skid of Maki, and they make a pick from there. They just look at Tapology. Oh, 3 in a row. He loses. He sucks. That's it. He's done. And that happens way more often than you would think. But again, if you look at those losses closer, they are not bad losses. Maki's a tough guy with his own power. He has solid takedowns. He is my pick. I didn't go as far as money line, though, but I did do another inside the distance decision, no action, because Dusko could absolutely win just with forward pressure and volume. But Maki's tough enough. He'll survive. Inside the distance decision, no action is the bet. Maki's the pick. I got the inside the distance decision, no action at plus 140. And right now, that is better than the money line odds. Better than the money line odds. So I like Maki there. I think he can win by stoppage. And if he doesn't, I'll get a full refund. wewantpicks.com/bets. 5 different partners. Bet Online offers that prop bet. Make a deposit. Let me know. I'll send you $50. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Dusko is a guy that is a very, very confident striker. He is hands low, karate stance, and relies on his head movement exclusively. There is no high guard. There is no defending with the hands. It's all head movement, and he got in real trouble with that in that fight versus who was that? Soriano. He got clipped, and then he got clipped, and then he got clipped because he's tough as hell, but he just got clipped and then clipped and then clipped, and eventually it caught up to me, and he got finished in that fight. But I actually thought I was going to get way ahead of the odds makers here, and I had a bet I wanted to place on this that I thought I was going to be like the smart guy in the room. I was going to tell you guys about it because I think that Dusko wins in this fashion, but apparently they're on to it because Dusko by submission is plus 285. I thought I was going to get plus 600, plus 700, plus 800. A lot of people don't know that he is a black belt and he's a very accomplished grappler. And with Maki, I think his game plan is going to come in to wrestle. Will he be scared to wrestle is going to be an interesting factor because he had success against Julian Marquez, but he gasped because of it. You could tell that he was just exhausted in that 3rd round. And that's one of the reasons he got submitted. So is he going to come in and try to not shoot the takedowns immediately? He doesn't want to gas because if you start striking with Dusko, you're going to get in some trouble. But I think it could be sloppy shots late. Dusko grabs the neck, submission bet. I really thought I was going to get way ahead of it and get crazy odds at plus 285. I'm probably not even going to play it because that's way too specific for plus 285, even for me to play that. I thought I was going to get ahead of that, but I like Dusko here. I think he does win by sub, but the path to victory for Mako is to wrestle and control him, but I just don't think he's going to be able to do that. And on the feet, Dusko is just way.
I think he can. He's got power, man. I think he can knock out Dusko, who has a questionable chin. No,
I think he can, but I think Dusko comes in a little more tuned up.
Yeah, we'll see. I actually think Maki's got a ton of power. Maki's super tough. Yes, he has been finished by submission, but that was 8 months ago. He's at the right camp. He's putting in the work. He's doing the right things. I think he's fine to not get submitted. I don't know if he'll win. I like him to win, but that's why my bet is inside the distance or a refund.
And Dusko is one of those guys that he really isn't really good at, from what I've seen. Not a lot of people have like tried to grapple him, but he's not great at takedown defense. But he's one of those guys that in guard, if you give him full guard, he is active in his guard. He is throwing up stuff. He does that what's that Eddie Bravo mission control, where you're grabbing on your own foot and then he's looking for triangles. He's trying to grab your arm. He's trying to do all sorts of stuff. So even if Maki's able to take him down, I don't think he's going to really enjoy being in Dusko's guard. So I like Dusko all the way in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good size favorite for a reason. That's why I literally started this with saying I get why he's the favorite. So what do you think of DraftKings? So you'd spend the $8,600 on him? You like him that much or no?
I got to spend my money somewhere. So he's going to be one of those guys that I definitely look at because he's live for those. You mentioned before that he got to UFC, all those first round finishes are crazy, and first round finishes score big in DraftKings. So he might be one of those $8,600 that you might try and chase.
And PayPal, so it's been 8 months since his last fight, but he was dominating his last fight. Dominating that fight. Dominating. And he got submitted with like a minute left. It was a Hail Mary. He was tired. 8 months is absolutely plenty of time not to learn how to wrestle, but he doesn't need to learn that. 8 months is plenty of time to fine-tune the cardio and make sure you don't gas, understand a little better where you can take your breaks, take your time. And we've seen people make those adjustments. We just watched Alonzo Menifield do that with the Ed Herman fight. Dude had zero cardio, made adjustments, fought Ed Herman, phenomenal cardio. So that's what I'm trusting Maki to do, make the adjustments. If he fights that same fight against Dusko Todorovic that he fought against Julian Marquez with a tiny bit more gas, he wins that fight. wewantpicks.com/bets, 5 betting partners. If you want an inside the distance decision, no action, jump into Bet Online. You want to do a wild parlay where you mash up a bunch of stuff, my bookie. You want the ability to cash out halfway through a fight, halfway through a parlay. You're worried about that last leg. You're up money. You want to pull it out, cancel it, leave with some positive money. Bovada, any one of those. Jump in, make a deposit. Let me know, and I will send you $50, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, however you want it. Jacob, we forgot to talk about Monkey Knife Fight. More or less? I like more and more.
Okay, I like more and more.
I think a lot of you in the comments are saying no way. Jesse, you said no way this goes to a decision. I actually think this is closer to a decision than it is a stoppage. I think there'll probably be a stoppage, but it may be a late, maybe a third round, something like that. I don't think
it could be a lot of Maki just hanging on his legs against the cage, just grinding. So, you said the more and more, and I agree with you, but I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, it's every single strike. So leaning on the legs, those little pitter patter against the head, every single one counts. So wewantpicks.com/MKF, sign up, get the free money, make a deposit, and go from there. Danny boy, welcome to the show, Dan. Dan, we do a podcast here. We break down fights. You're a former fighter. Maybe you can offer some insight.
What is this? It's a podcast? What do you call it?
Yeah, so that's like the internet and TV and radio all come together and they make a show. I
keep trying to dial up, and I get the busy signal, and then my mom keeps picking up the phone, and the internet gets cut off. So I don't know what's going on.
All right, well, we're jumping.
What's up, Jake? How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Daniel?
Good. Why are you talking in that weird voice?
That's just Jacob. All right, no time for pleasantries, guys. This is the show. We're live.
All right, straight to business.
Straight to business. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have Brendan Allen versus late replacement Chris Curtis. Brendan Allen, 17-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off of that awesome win over Punahil Soriano. Chris Curtis, 27-8, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off of that awesome first-round knockout over Phil Hawes. On paper, this should be another striker versus grappler matchup with Chris Curtis yet again stepping in on short notice. Brendan Allen is a BJJ black belt with solid low kicks, great takedowns, and much improved striking. He moved to Sanford MMA a few camps ago, and you can see those improvements. Historically, his game plan was grappling. He would get the takedown, be crazy tough on top, work from there. But at some point in the last year and a half, he turned into a striker. Brendan Allen is now officially a striker. His last fight against Punahil was interesting because Punahil is an insane power striker who's dangerous at all times. The clear path would have been for Brendan Allen to grapple, but he didn't. And he just straight up won a kickboxing fight against who on paper was the far more dangerous and much better kickboxer. Chris Curtis, there's a ton of tape on him. We've broken him down a few times now, even though he's only been in the UFC for all of a month. And he's an easy guy to break down. He has nice, clean boxing. He's got decent takedown defense and improved takedown offense. He has solid power in his hands, and it comes from short, clean punches, which just catches people off guard. He works solid leg kicks, and he'll touch up the body. He takes his time with his shots, but he's always moving. He's always out of the way or trying to set something up. We've seen him struggle with pure wrestlers in the past. If you go back to his Magomed Karimov fight, you'll see that he faded as the fight went on. He had absolutely no answer for the ground and pound. Chris Curtis made quite the statement a couple weeks ago in his fight against Phil Hawes. But before everyone rides that train and has Chris Curtis in their parlays and love him as the massive underdog favorite, let me remind you that he was losing that fight. Chris Curtis was losing that fight. Phil Hawes was winning the striking exchanges until he was knocked out, so I know how stupid that sounds, but he was winning those striking exchanges. Phil landed 48 strikes to Chris's 21. And the only reason Chris even had the opportunity to hit Phil the way that he did is because Phil was playing patty cake. He'd touch him up, fake a takedown, go back to touching him up. He did that 3 times. The boy who cried wolf, Chris wasn't falling for it anymore and then absolutely cracked him. So Chris was a step behind that entire time. He was able to pull it off. He's got a ton of power and he will always be dangerous. I don't think Brendan Allen will make those same mistakes. While he doesn't have as much power, he has become a good technical striker. I just don't see him making those mistakes. I think he can win a technical striking fight if it stays there. He could absolutely win if he wrestles. I've got Brendan Allen winning. I'm pretty confident in that win, but these odds are obviously pretty crazy. I'm not touching the odds. I like Brendan Allen to win. Jakey boy. I'll let Dan get settled. Jakey boy. We already kind of broke this down, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the one that called that Phil Hall's knockout. I said if Phil Hall doesn't wrestle, he's going to get knocked out, and he got knocked out. This is the exact same situation. You think that he's going to win the striking exchanges versus Chris Curtis, and it's not going to happen. He's going to get knocked out if he tries to strike with Chris Curtis. He has a very easy path to victory. Every time he takes somebody down, he submits them. He wins. He wins the fight. Just take Chris Curtis down and submit it. Chris Curtis has terrible takedown defense. It's not even very good. It's not even like it's average. I think it's terrible. It's going to have no issues taking Chris Curtis down. Just take him down, submit him, and move on. You're a 350 favorite. You don't have to show off. Just get your win. Because if you start striking, you're going to get knocked out. It's going to be the exact same situation. Chris Curtis is a Golden Gloves champ. He's got real power in his hands. And you mentioned he was losing versus Phil Hawes. He's got that high guard, that boxing stance. He'll absorb shots. He's waiting. He's finding his timing. And the second he finds his timing, you're seeing stars. So I think Brendan Allen is definitely the play. He's a safe play. He should win. But if he starts striking with Chris Curtis, the exact same thing's going to happen, man. These people don't learn. These grapplers that think they're strikers, just do what you got to do, man. Phil Hawes made the mistake. Brendan Allen, just grapple him. Just grapple him.
Yeah, listen, I completely agree with all of that. And Chris Curtis has proven that he's live. But Brendan Allen is a much better striker than Phil Hawes. He doesn't have the same power Phil Hawes does, but he's got volume. He's got good footwork. And we literally just watched Brendan Allen beat a big power puncher. Granted, Puna Heel is different than Chris Curtis, but we just watched him win that fight. Danny boy.
And Chris Curtis too kind of baits people into striking with them with that high guard, right? It's kind of like the Peter Yan or a Piotr Yan. He has that tight guard, and it feels like you can just keep punching them, but really those punches aren't really getting through. I mean, Phil Hawes got through the guard a few times, but people will just keep striking. All of a sudden, you just boom, and your lights out.
Danny boy, what are your thoughts?
Jacob, I think you nailed it, man. You covered a lot of what I was going to say. And Angelo, you were talking about Chris Curtis losing that first round against Hawes. I was watching it too. He was losing for sure, but the difference was he was composed. He's got the composure of a boxer. He had his hands up, and he was always looking for that shot. So Brendan Allen, like you guys have said, he's fallen in love with his striking lately. I don't think this is the fight to do that. It's not, we're not trying to prove points here. We're trying to win fights and make money. Brendan Allen has a path, like we said, with wrestling. I don't know. His last fight against Soriano, he probably could have wrestled. He chose not to. But I think there's a different level of skill, timing, and just overall athleticism from a true boxer than there is against a guy like Soriano, who's a power puncher, a good striker. But Chris Curtis is a legit boxer who's going to find those openings. And all it takes is one mistake. We saw it with Hawes. So I think Brendan Allen is the pick if he wrestles. But man, I don't know. He might be one of those guys who's going to try to prove a point and strike. And I will say too, it's not like Chris Curtis is, he's got 6 fights, 7 fights. He's a boxer.
Yeah,
he's got 30-something MMA fights. So it's not like he's completely new to the thought of wrestling. So I don't know. He might be one of those guys that could be, working on his wrestling. I saw Hawes take some shots, and they were like half attempts, almost at fakes.
They were complete.
So it's hard to evaluate if Curtis, you can't even count him as a defense, but it looked like his hips were all right. But I don't know. You go watch back a few fights, and to Jacob's point, he got taken down pretty easily. So I don't know. This one scares me a little bit, but Brendan Allen's got to be the pick. But if he tries to strike, man, I think he could get in some trouble. He'll win early, but I think he could get in trouble later. From like a multi-entry standpoint, I think there's a lot of upside to Chris Curtis here.
100%. And I'm sorry to block your face here, but MBA is a good point. We forgot to mention it. We mentioned it earlier in the week with the early breakdown. Chris Curtis is a welterweight. He took the Phil Hawes fight on like 12 hours notice at middleweight. Phil Hawes turned it down. They rebooked it a month later. They kept it at middleweight. And now Chris is stepping in on short notice again as a middleweight. But he is a straight-up welterweight. Not that he's not small. He didn't look small compared to Phil Hawes, but he is a welterweight. This is not his weight class. It's not like Brendan Allen's massive, but, so I think we all agree.
I mean, that should be even more of an advantage for Allen in the grappling, right? He should be able to control him even more in those positions.
Should be able to. I mean, so I think we're all basically on the same page. I'm a little higher on Brendan Allen than you two are, but for the most part, we all think Brendan Allen's the pick. We think minus 350 is a bit absurd. Is anybody here spending the $9,600 in DraftKings on Brendan Allen?
I mean, if you want to trust that he's going to go game plan, he honestly could take Chris. In my mind, he can take Chris and submit him inside of 2 minutes if he wants to. I think he's that good. I think Brendan Allen is that good on the ground, and Chris Curtis is that inexperienced on the ground. I think there's worlds apart on the ground, but I just don't think he's going to do it, man. I just don't think he's going to do it.
Yeah, and I got to give Chris credit though, because if Magomed Karimov didn't submit him, I don't know if now Brendan Allen's a much more slick jiu-jitsu guy than Magomed is, but Chris just took that wrestling beating the entire fight and was just hung tough. So yeah, I don't think there's a stoppage, and I'm not spending $9,600 is Amanda Nunes money. I'm not spending that here. That's not going to happen.
The value, I hate to say, is on Chris Curtis, even though you're right. He could get dominated in this fight. Brendan Allen is tough as nails, and just game plan. If he has the right game plan, it should go his way. But, man, I don't know. I got one of those weird feelings like Chris Curtis might shock some people here. Not early, second round, third round. I don't know.
We've seen that happen in the past. Somebody flies onto the scene, gets a couple crazy wins. So he's definitely heading on the path, and he's got himself a nice little win streak. What do you guys think of Monkey Knife Fight? I think more and more is the play. I do think this fight goes a little bit. Brendan Allen's tough. Chris Curtis is tough. I think this fight will go a little bit. My only hesitation is actually Chris Curtis's line, because he takes his time. And what was the stat that I read off? He landed 21 in that first round. So if you think this goes a few rounds, you'll hit that 44. I like more here. What do you guys think? Jake?
Yeah, I'll do more because he is a boxer, so he'll be pumping that jab out there. I like more.
Danny?
This is tough. It's like, because Chris Curtis landing over 44.5 means they're striking the whole time. I guess I like more less.
Less than 44. So you do think you're trusting Brendan Allen to actually grapple?
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I think as an MMA fighter with a coaching staff, you're fighting a guy who's a boxer.
I agree, but he just fought.
He had
Morono
zero takedown attempts versus
Menifield.
Sean. What's his name?
No, I know. I know. That's why I'm like, but Chris Curtis. There's a difference between I think Soriano's boxing and Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis is an actual boxer, right? I don't know. I think Vanderaa would not be a good game plan to go strike from the bat and just keep going with that. So I think he's going to wrestle early. I wouldn't be surprised if he's okay with some exchanges. So I think he'll get the punches in on the ground, maybe some exchanges. And if Curtis does win, I don't think it's going to be 60 points. I don't think it's going to be a boxing match the way he's winning. I think it's going to be like he lands a shot with an opening.
Yeah. And before we move on, Jill had a good point. At least she said she would rather spend $9,600 on Allen than $9,500 on Morono or Kape at $9,400. That's a fair
I agree with her there.
Yeah,
I
Chris
agree.
is the less dangerous out of all those three opponents.
Yeah, if I have to pick between them, I would, but $9,600 is still a lot. But this is a weird card where we like a lot of inexpected people, so we'll see what happens. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We now have 5 betting partners. Jump in, make a deposit with any of them, and I will send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. You can make deposits and do all of them, and I'll send you $250. wewantpicks.com/bets. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have Jimmy Crute versus Jamahal Hill. Jimmy Crute, 12-2 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of that leg shutdown loss to Anthony Smith. Jamahal Hill, 8-1 overall, 3-1-1 in his last 5, coming off of that sort of shocking loss to Paul Craig. Wasn't shocking to me and Danny, though. We picked that one. Shocking loss to Paul Craig with that really bad arm injury. Jimmy Crute, fantastic wrestler. Even in that loss to Anthony Smith, when his leg was just straight up not working, he was still able to work in takedowns. He averages almost 5 takedowns per fight with an 80% takedown accuracy, which is those two numbers together are insane. I mentioned it earlier. When you see a guy that has high takedowns per fight but a low takedown percentage, he's a chain wrestler. In Jimmy Crute, we have high takedowns and high accuracy, which is very impressive. And that's one of the most impressive volume stats I've seen in the UFC. But what's interesting about that is that means people are getting up. If you have 5 takedowns in a 3-round fight, that means somebody got up 4 times. So he's not a pure grappler, though. He has 1-punch knockout power and a pretty good 2-to-1 striking differential. So Jimmy Crute, very well-rounded guy, primarily a grappler, still has power, can still strike and hang. Jamahal Hill is a tall, rangy striker. He comes forward. He picks his shots really well. He has an incredible 7-3 striking differential. So he almost doubles his opponent's strikes. He's primarily a boxer, but he does have solid leg kicks. He doesn't have incredible power, but half of his wins are by stoppage. But if you look into that, it's just accuracy and volume. He is not sleeping you with 1 punch. He's basically overwhelming you until the referee comes in. So great striker, not that insane raw power. People fall behind, shell up, he unloads on them, and the referee comes in. Honestly, for me, this is pretty straightforward. This card is loaded with underdogs, and I don't think this is one of them. I see Jamahal trying to use his range to keep Crute away, but ultimately Jimmy's going to work in, get takedowns. If Jamahal had 1-punch knockout power, I think that could scare Jimmy a bit, maybe frustrate him a little bit, taking into a bad shot and cracking him, but he just doesn't. I see Jimmy eating whatever volume comes his way, throwing in his own power, working takedowns. I like Jimmy to win. I see a good amount of takedowns here, so I actually like the $9,200. Danny boy, what are your thoughts here?
So if Jimmy Crute and Brendan Allen can be in the same locker room and just like make a pact that they're going to wrestle this fight, we're good. They're both going to win. Jimmy Crute's path is wrestling. Jamahal Hill, I bet against him a couple times. I got burnt against OSP. Watching that fight was just the most frustrating thing in the world. But the weird thing about Jimmy Crute is, every one of his last 5 fights have ended in the first round, right? He either wins or loses in the first round. And I think you said he's got 5 takedowns per fight average, or whatever. But if you look at it, he's got 8. Yeah. It's 8 against Ola Jacek a couple fights ago. Then he's got none against Bukauskas because he got a knockout. And then his last fight against Smith, he tried striking a little bit, and that's when his leg got jacked up. And he still got 3 takedowns, but it was kind of too little, too late. He was already hurt. But I mean, again, like you said, the path here is takedowns. Jamahal Hill, good striker, not a lot of he's a crisp striker, but he doesn't have a lot of power. And when Craig took him down, it was like they were drilling almost. He snatched his arm, and Jamahal Hill didn't know what to do. Like, he got omoplated, swept, armbarred, got basically knocked out from an armbar position. So I think there's just going to be a big disadvantage for Jamahal Hill on the ground. If Jimmy Crute wrestles, he should get him to the ground easy and get a submission. So I think he's worth the 9,200. I think he's going to get a sub if he fights smart. Just don't do what you did against Anthony Smith and go out there trying to strike. We know you're good, you know you're tough, but easy path, wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
Dan and I on the same page. What about you, Jakey boy?
I 100% agree with what Dan was saying. This feels exactly, I mean, we just talked about the last fight. This feels like the Phil Hawes Chris Curtis fight, right? It was an easy path to victory. But you see, I'm glad you mentioned that last fight, that Anthony Smith fight. He was just getting eaten alive by Anthony Smith's jab. Just a jab. Just absolutely just beaten. Every single jab was hitting him straight in the face. No head movement. If he comes in, even in the first minute, and tries to do that against Jamahal Hill is a really, really good boxer. I think he even called himself, the best boxer in the UFC. A lot of people are saying that. But he is actually a very, very slick boxer. And the thing that interests me the most about this fight is against Paul Craig. I think Paul Craig was a short notice fight, so that kind of plays a factor. But Paul Craig, it was a grappler versus striker. Jamahal Hill in that fight was a 200 favorite in that fight. So people really didn't even care about the Paul Craig's ability. Obviously, he didn't even get taken down. Paul Craig actually pulled guard, and Jamahal Hill, for whatever reason, jumps into his guard. And he got in the arm bar once, but then, like Dan said, didn't really know what was going on down there. So Jimmy Crute, if you want to wrestle, you can easily win this fight. If you want to strike, you're probably going to get TKO'd or knocked out. You're going to get pieced up for sure because Jamahal Hill is a no joke on the feet. He calls himself the best boxer. I don't think he's probably the best boxer, but he's very, very good with his hands, and he's slick with it too. So, wrestle Jimmy, and you'll get the win, just like Dan said.
Yeah, and Mbaye brings up a good point. I don't know if Jamahal Hill's arm is healed. That thing was dangling.
And I'll say he didn't break his arm. He just dislocated it. So that's a big difference between a bone break that needs to heal or a dislocation. You just kind of throw it back and then kind of let it sit. So it was a dislocation, not a break. So that's a little bit easier.
Yeah, it was swimming around. The only thing keeping it attached was skin. But I mentioned I like Jimmy at $9,200. Are you guys on that page?
I like him, yeah.
I don't. I'm actually picking. I was going to pick Jamahal Hill in this fight. I'll go with Hill in this fight. I do have a question for you guys because his stance, he kind of has one of those wide stances. It's a lot of boxers have like the short stance, the high. But his is a little bit wider. I think, is that going to be easier for Jimmy to get those takedowns with those wide stance, or is that going to allow Hill to kind of move in and out from those takedown attempts?
Just single legs there, and it's all about your hips. If you don't have the right hips to defend takedowns, the stance is, the wide stance is going to leave a single leg, right? Like Glover's got that single leg, that snatch single, so that'll leave that open. But I don't even think it matters if you don't have the hips. You're going to get taken down no matter what stance you have.
Yeah. No.
What do you think, Angelo? You're the wrestler.
No, that's what I was going to say. Like, you have nice wide base. You're not going to shoot a double with your arms way out here. So it's a single. You just run the pipe, put him on his butt, and that's the end of that. So I like Jimmy in my lineup. I have a bet here, and I wasn't going to say it because I felt stupid at, the breakdown here. I have one unit on the over 1.5 on rounds. I actually think this will go a little bit. I see Jimmy getting a takedown, but it may take him a little while to get into that takedown because Jamahal does have that volume, and I think he'll just smack up Jimmy's face a little bit before Jimmy just says, screw it, eats it, and commits to a takedown. So I like the over 1.5 rounds, but Dan, you made it sound like there's no way this gets out of the first round. So that bet has me a little nervous, but I do have a full unit there. And then
You have a full
Monkey
unit on the
Knife Fight,
over what?
1.5 rounds.
I like that. I like that a lot because even if Hill gets taken down, you saw how tough he is, right? He dislocated his arm and it's flopping around. He's getting elbowed in the head. And he's trying to he's trying to throw punches over the top still. So he's tough as hell. And he's not, like you say, he's not a KO artist either. So I might ride that bet with you.
Yeah, I mean, I did like that. So I placed that bet. And then Monkey Knife Fight, I like them more and more. I do think they go at it. Jamal's got some good volume. Jimmy Crute, if he gets on top, he'll throw some strikes. Those strike volumes are based off of 1.5 rounds. I think it's over 1.5 rounds. So I'll do the more on the Monkey Knife Fight. What do you think, Jakey?
Yeah, I do the more too, because even you mentioned some people kind of get up from takedowns against Jimmy Crute, and I was watching a Hill fight too, where I think it was DC or somebody said that Hill was like dangerous on the ground. Obviously, he looked like he didn't know what he's doing last fight, so maybe he's got like a wild guard or something. Who knows? But I'll probably play more.
Danny Boy, more, less.
I'm going less. I mean, the last 5 fights that Jeremy Crute has been in have ended in the first round, and the last 3 for Jamahal have ended in the first or second round. So I see Jimmy Crute getting a takedown and winning this early, or if he has a bad game plan, maybe he gets clipped. But I think it's going to end pretty early, first or second round.
I mean, it makes sense. I guess it's whatever side you're on there. So wewantpicks.com/bets. 5 different betting partners. Jump into any one of them. Make a deposit. Let us know. We'll pay you $50. It's that simple. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have Leonardo Santos versus Clay Guida. Leonardo Santos 18-4 overall. 4-1 in his last 5 with a 7-fight win streak before his last fight, which was a loss. Clay Guida 36-21 overall, only 2-3 in his last 5, coming off of that split decision loss to Mark O. Madsen. Clay Guida, straight up legend at this point. While he's not quite 40, he is starting to slow down, but even a slower Clay Guida is ridiculously high-paced, great cardio, relentless wrestling, solid striking. He makes up for any technical gaps with speed, volume, and pace. He's coming off a split decision loss to Olympic wrestler Mark O. Madsen, where Mark was 0-for-1 on his takedowns. If you watch the fight, it was interesting, though, because I felt like Mark wanted to wrestle, but just never found his opportunity because Clay's feet are never where they're supposed to be 2 seconds after you decide you want to take your shot. Leonardo Santos is 41. He is coming off of his first loss in 8 years. Phenomenal BJJ guy, a 7-time BJJ world champion. He's a technical striker, and despite looking soft, like physically looks a little soft, he has deceiving power in his hands. He showcased that with a 1-punch knockout over Stevie Ray. Cardio can be Leonardo's issue, especially at this age. So, to summarize, Leonardo Santos is good everywhere. And if he didn't get knocked out at the very tail end of his last fight, he would have won that decision and be the owner of a really impressive win streak. I think in order for Leonardo to win, he'll need to take Clay down. He'll need to work his BJJ from top. I think Clay is too good to be submitted when he's on top, meaning if Clay gets the takedowns, I don't think Leonardo is going to be able to submit Clay from bottom. Leonardo has a nice variety of takedowns, though. He will shoot doubles. He'll work in throws. He mixes it up well. The only issue is he has a low 29% takedown accuracy, and taking down a guy like Clay Guida, who's never in one place for more than 2 seconds, is not an easy thing to do. There's a tricky fight, tricky pick, because Clay's pace alone will give Leonardo trouble, especially later in the fight. But my heart is saying Clay Guida, but my brain is saying Leonardo. I think he's the better. He's got more power. He definitely has better jiu-jitsu. I think he's got the better striking. Clay has been beaten by many people like this before. But the pace alone can be an issue. So I like Leonardo Santos to win. I think this is a straight-up pick 'em. I think the odds are crazy, but I do like Leonardo. This is a great spot for Clay Guida plus 3.5, but those odds were stupid as hell. Jakey boy, what are your thoughts?
Quick pop quiz for you guys. Leonardo Santos back in 2005 had a grappling match versus GSP Who do you think won that?
2005?
2005.
I would say GSP because of the wrestling.
It was
I
Santos.
think I would say Santos just because you're asking the question like it's a weird
Right.
answer.
It was actually like they were in like just like this, and Santos did like that jump up pull guard into like a triangle and armbar GSP like within the first minute. So it's pretty wild. But so he was very good. But as you mentioned, that was 2005. He's 41 years old, and his last fight, while he got absolutely flatlined by Grant Dawson. I think he was going to win that fight. He was trying to do the Ryan Hall heel hook or knee bar or whatever, and Dawson just started hammer fisting in, and he was like out, and then got hit like 2 more times, just bouncing his head off the canvas. And at 41 years old, I think that was the first time he's really been knocked out since like 2004 or something like that. But absolutely flatlined. It wasn't March, so he's had time to recover, but who knows how he's going to come back from that. Clay Guida, you mentioned the pressure. That's his path to victory. It's going to be pressure, pressure, pressure. I don't know if Clay Guida is going to be able to get the takedowns. Leonardo Santos versus Grant, his last fight. Grant was 1 for 13 on takedowns. The fight before that, Roman was 1 of 11 on takedowns. Leonardo Santos, if he wants to pull guard, maybe he does something weird like that. But if you just pressure the guy, he's a defensive striker, right? So he's going to be constantly backing up. You got to get in his face, work him against the fence. He will do some weird trips and stuff to try and get offensive takedowns on his own against the fence. But Clay, he's too savvy for that stuff. He's too good of a wrestler, too good in his own jiu-jitsu. I think you just pressure, make it ugly, win that typical Clay Guida fight. And I like Clay Guida to win this fight the way that he always wins his fights.
All right. Solid pressure for Clay, even though you acknowledge Leonardo's pretty much better everywhere. Danny boy, what are your thoughts here?
I think this is Clay Guida's fight. I mean, again, it comes down to game plan. But I think the line is way off. I think Clay Guida, I don't think he needs to shoot a takedown. I think he needs to just strike. Leonardo Santos, let's be honest, he was a power striker maybe 10 years ago, right? But his last fight, he looked good, he looked technical, but he didn't look like anything that dominant, right? He didn't look like he's gonna destroy Clay Guida, walk off KO, anything like that. Could catch him clean, you never know, but Clay Guida has looked better with his striking lately. I always talk about the Michael Johnson fight. Like, he was landing big shots in that fight in the striking exchange against Michael Johnson. And Michael Johnson is a good striker, a good wrestler. And I think he came, I know Michael Johnson, he's hit or miss, but I think he came to that fight ready to go. And Guida just outpaced him, surprised him with the striking ability. So I think if Clay Guida doesn't shoot a takedown for the first round and a half, and just strikes, yeah, it could be some back and forth exchanges. But by midway through the second round, beginning of the third round, Clay Guida is going to be putting it on him. And I think at that point he can do it however he wants. Takedowns, striking. I think this is Clay Guida's fight. I think he should be the favorite, to be honest. Cardio alone is, a major edge. And Clay Guida hasn't been submitted. I know everyone talks about all the submissions, but his last submission was Charles Oliveira in 2018, right? Guillotine. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't his last. Jim Miller, guillotine. Okay, so shoot and takedown, gets caught in a guillotine. Charles Oliveira, shoot and takedown, probably gets caught in a guillotine. I don't think he should shoot. If he doesn't shoot and he strikes with this guy, Santos is probably not going to knock him out. Clay Guida is tough as can be, and I think it's just a matter of letting him fade, and then you're going to turn over, and Guida could get the finish later on in the fight.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of it. I see what you're saying. I would also argue that Clay Guida just lost a striking match with a straight-up wrestler, but his ridiculous pace can be problems for anybody. So I'm not going to argue.
He won that fight, though, right? I saw part of it. I heard a lot of people say that he got robbed.
Either way, it was way closer than it should have been because the analysis was if he keeps it striking, he dominates.
Well, I think he was supposed to be dominated. I think Mark was a huge favorite.
Yeah, Mark is an Olympic guy.
Yeah,
right. Mark's an Olympic. The Olympian is his actual name, but I think he's a Greco guy, right?
Yeah. He only tried one single takedown because he felt like he was winning the striking. So
I was say he's a lot younger, but he's 37, which compared to 41, 42 actually is a lot younger.
Feels
but
fresher too. Yeah, I'm not
his age is insane with the cardio.
I'm not going to argue with anybody picking Clay Guida. That guy's cardio can get him through anything. Stupid tough. Even an exhausted, older, slow Clay Guida has better pace than most. So DraftKings, my opinion, whatever side you're on, you guys obviously like Clay Guida, $7,400. I guess you can't really go wrong with that. $8,800 for Leonardo. It's high. If you think you're going to get a stoppage, it's worth it. But that is a lot of money to spend if you don't think you're going to get a stoppage. Monkey knife fight, man. This is probably a less more situation, even though I think Leonardo Santos wins because Clay's pace is crazy, and I think Leonardo can win with just slowing the pace down or trying to, getting a takedown, working from there. But I think Clay is going to get his shots off, so it's probably a less more type situation. What do you think, Jacob?
I agree with that. Less more.
Danny?
I like less more. I think Guida's going to pepper him, and Santos probably not going to land 77 strikes.
Yeah, well, it's 77 is quite a bit. wewantpicks.com/bets. 5 different betting partners. Jump in, make a deposit. Let me know. I will send you $50, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it, as a thank you. If you want to play this monkey knife fight line, wewantpicks.com/MKF. Make an account, make an account, make a deposit. They will give you a free deposit match. Use the free money. You don't even have to use the real money. Use the free money, play, get a feel for it, and go from there. The show is so much longer with a third person here, Danny.
All right, Jacob, you got to go, bro.
Hour number 2. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have the co-main event of the evening. We have Rafael Fiziev versus Brad Riddell. Rafael Fiziev 10-1 overall, riding himself a nice little win streak. Brad Riddell 5-0 in his last 5, riding a 7-fight win streak, 10-1 as well. This should be an awesome fight. We have 2 great strikers in a razor-thin stand-up war. Both of these guys have careers outside of the UFC in their respected combat sports. Brad is a kickboxer, Rafael as a Muay Thai striker. Rafael Fiziev is a phenomenal striker with traditional Muay Thai style. He has incredible power and volume. He typically doesn't have gas issues, but we did see him slow down big time and give up the 3rd round to Bobby Green his last fight. He has great takedown defense at 100% in the UFC, but I don't think he'll necessarily need that in this fight. Brad is also a great striker with nice volume and big power. He's riding a 7-fight win streak and coming off of that great fight with Drew Dober, where he showed not only how technical his striking is, but how tough he is too. Both of these guys are strikers, and if we look at the striking stats, Fiziev has higher output, but he also gets hit more. He has a 1-to-1 striking differential with over 5 significant strikes per minute, where Brad is landing 4 and receiving 3, so just a little bit cleaner on those exit. Brad is more of a pure boxer. Rafael is a Muay Thai striker. He was actually the Muay Thai coach at Tiger Muay Thai for a bit. I think Brad Riddell was as well for a few minutes there. Rafael has higher volume where Brad has more power. This is razor thin. I gotta go with Fiziev here. I know we broke this down early last week. I said Fiziev. I've been leaning more towards Brad since then, but I'm going to stick with Rafael Fiziev. I think his volume and his diversity in strikes will be the difference. Brad sort of waits to land the perfect punch, where Fiziev would have already landed a kick and entered the pocket while Brad was figuring out, should I shoot, should I strike? Brad's power does have me nervous. This is a nice inside the distance decision, no action type spot, and just pick whatever side you want to be on. Jakey boy, what are your thoughts in this razor thin matchup?
I agree. This is kind of just a flip the coin type of situation here. I have in my notes, it's who can get their second win faster, because both these guys, you've seen some cardio issues for both of them in the 3rd round, but they're both the guys that even when they're tired, they're still throwing wild punches, are still moving forward. It's kind of funny. I mentioned we already had kind of a breakdown of this fight in a previous video, but I mentioned the Fiziev. I watched the interview where he was talking about that. that last fight. And he literally said in the third round, I was dying. I was completely dying. And he said, it doesn't make any sense to me because I work just as hard as everyone in the gym. I work harder than everyone in the gym. In the gym, I can go rounds. And then the quote I love the most is because he says, I guess it's just my stupid brain. He says, I guess when I get in the fight, I just get too excited. I don't know how to pace myself. He just loves fighting that much that he just gets exhausted, and that's just what happens. So he trains hard, and he's got the cardio, but he just kind of blows his load early sometimes, and sometimes that happens, you know. But, yeah, with Fiziev, I was going to pick against him in this fight because he gets a little too wild where Riddell, I think, is a little bit more reserved, a little bit more technical, and stays in that technical mind frame. But I think I'm going to pick Fiziev because he gets wild, because I think that this fight is going to be so back and forth. I think the judges can kind of get enthralled in the wild movements, right? Fiziev's strikes look like they're more intense because he's doing more wild stuff. He's the one that's going to be pressing forward. And even if Riddell is coming forward and Fiziev is tired, Fiziev is still going to be throwing wild stuff. And even if it doesn't look like it lands or it looks a little bit weird, the judges are oohing, and you hear the oohs and the odds in the crowd. That can affect judges' scorecards. So in a close fight, I'll take the guy that looks like he's having more fun at that looks like he's going to be the aggressive fighter. So I think this is a complete coin toss the whole way. It'll be interesting to see if Brad uses grappling, right? He came out the last fight, used his grappling. If he uses it in this fight and gives Rafael issues, even if it drains his gas tank, you know, he's got another path to victory. But I'm going to go Rafael and play and ride that train and see what happens.
I think we talked about this when we broke it down earlier. This is a perfect live betting situation because if Brad Riddell shoots a takedown and gets it, live bet the hell out of Brad Riddell. There's a clear path to victory there. If Brad Riddell shoots a takedown and gets stuffed because Rafael has a 100% takedown defense so far, I'm betting the hell out of Rafael Fiziev live because Brad tried it, didn't get it. Now he's in some trouble. So it'll be interesting. They do have some history together. I think they had a very short period of time where they trained together. There was some overlap, so who knows. But Danny boy, what are your thoughts here?
This is the toughest one to call because at first I was like, man, I like. Well, first of all, I'm going to say I think they got the odds right. It's a close fight. Riddell and Fiziev are both good strikers. I give Fiziev the slight edge in striking. Riddell has gotten some takedowns lately, but I watched tape on it. They weren't pretty. But the thing is, I have no idea if Fiziev can defend takedowns. He's training at Sanford MMA, so I got to imagine he's getting
100% takedown defense. So
I know. 100. Everyone keeps saying 100% takedown defense, all right? Like, I think we argued about this last time. Like, who was the take? We went back and looked on the takedowns.
I looked it up, and I remember being correct. But sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
You remember being correct about 100% takedown? Yeah, I know. I agreed with that. But
no,
I'm just saying,
like there was a few fights we defended like 4 or 5, but nobody knew who the guy was, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, it was against Jamal White or somebody, like some weird name that nobody knew. Anyways, I have no idea what's going to happen in this fight. I'm kind of like, if the odds were a little bit better on Riddell, I'd be all over it. But I just don't know. So I'm going to give a slight lean to Riddell with just being plus money, I guess, at even and the 7,900 DraftKings. But I think they can both hang with each other on the feet striking. It's just a matter of whether or not Riddell's gotten better at his wrestling. He certainly tried last fight, which is a good sign. And he probably knows better than anybody if Fiziev can defend takedowns or not. The other X factor here, now that has me second guessing that, is Fiziev's training at Sanford MMA. So he's getting good training, good looks. So I don't know. This is gonna be. I want to learn more from this fight than anything. I want to see how I want to see some takedowns to see how Fiziev does, because at some point I'm gonna make my money back from him against Moicano, because I lost some money when Moicano fight him. I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy. He's gonna get a body lock, take him down, and submit him, but he stood and struck with him, and Fiziev can freaking knock your head off. So this is a tough one to call. I'll go with Riddell with the coin flip, just with the better odds.
Jacob, are you spending the $8,300 on Fiziev? I am.
Then I'm not. If you are, I'm not.
Fair enough.
By the way, Mbaye had a good point. This could be one of those fights that everyone expects fireworks, and both guys knowing each other and technical strikers, they could
it'll
kind
be
of.
fine. Rafael does not give a shit. Rafael is not going to be scared of anyone. He's going to throw bombs no matter.
It's not scared. It's just kind of like waiting for your moment. I don't know. I could see that.
He's going to throw bombs. He's going to throw bombs. Rafael, I mentioned earlier. I was talking earlier about Cheyanne. How some people.
What did you think about the Ngannou versus Derek Lewis fight? You thought they were going to throw bombs? I'm sure, right?
That's a little bit different than a 155 striker compared to knockout artists. Listen, I mentioned in the Cheyanne. Some people are just born to fight and just absolutely love fighting, just fall in love with it. Some people are fighters and some people are fighters. And Rafael is a dude that is just a fighter. He lives and breathes and eats fighting.
He's mean. Josh, thank you very much for the super chat. It is much, much appreciated. And hopefully you make all your money back following these picks. Guys, everybody else, wewantpicks.com/
Angelo's flying. Do you see that, Dan?
What?
What's that?
In the chat, Angelo's flying. You see that?
Oh, I get it. Angelo's shaped like a pear. wewantpicks.com/bets. Jump into one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know. I will send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and the channel. Guys, more or less on this.
That was you like 10 years ago.
More. I have slimmed out. More or less on the Monkey Knife Fight strike line. Jake.
More.
Dan.
More.
All right. It's a hard line. I'm not touching it because more is like
not touching it. You gotta make a call. It's the Monkey Knife Fight line. You gotta make a call, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna bet more, but that would be my play.
Well, listen, I only tell people what I do. I just don't know. Like more is like that's a very busy back and forth fight. And we did see how tough Brad Riddell is in his last fight. But I don't think either one of these guys are going to absorb that many strikes. We've seen Rafael do it. He took a bunch of shots from Bobby Green. I don't know if Brad Riddell can take 88 Rafael Fiziev shots. I don't know if he can do that. So I guess less.
He's
but
not a powerhouse, though. That was more like third round, just Fiziev get dead tired. I didn't want to talk about that fight. That was the fight we got screwed in the +5. I will hold it against Fiziev personally, even though it wasn't his fault.
No, everything went exactly as we thought. Judges screwed us. Main event. Next up at UFC Vegas 44, we have the main event of the evening. We have Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. Rob Font's name is first, even though he's not the former champion, but he is the higher ranked fighter. Rob Font, 19-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off of that really nice win over Cody Garbrandt. Jose Aldo, 30-7 overall, 2-3 in his last fight, but should be 3-2 because of that really bad decision against Marlon Moraes. Rob Font, he's a Northeast guy like Dan and myself. He's gritty, he's tough, he is technical. Rob has solid power, a solid chin, great boxing, and a really good get-up game. He is primarily a boxer. He doesn't kick often, but he doesn't need to because his hands are so clean and fast that he can enter and leave the pocket before most fighters know what happened, and he doesn't need to set that up or distract with kicks. If we look at his stats, he has fantastic volume and a striking differential of 3-2. I picked Font over Marlon Moraes last year, and honestly, I see a lot of similarities between Font and Moraes and Font fighting Jose Aldo. At this point, everybody should know who Jose Aldo is. The greatest 145-pounder of all time. This fight is at 135, but Jose Aldo is the greatest 145-pounder of all time. I don't care about the Max Holloway conversations. He's a longtime champion. He's good everywhere. He's a great counter striker with technical Muay Thai, great BJJ, very good wrestling. His leg kicks and counter striking are an absolute nightmare for almost everyone, but he is aging. He's got a lot of miles on him, and he is much older than what Tapology tells you, much older. The legend goes he had no birth certificate when it was time to go, get what he needed to move and fly and travel. He didn't have a birth certificate, so he had to go get one. They said, well, when were you born? And he just made up an age. So he's about 5 to 10 years older than what the stats say.
10 years older? Jesus.
I think he's 67
he's
years
45
old.
years old?
I'm pretty sure he's
The
67.
story gets different every time Angelo tells it. He's going to be 20 years older.
Take it out. Don't I didn't lie on government documents. That wasn't me. If we didn't just watch
arrested and deported.
Allegedly.
If we didn't just watch Jose absolutely dismantle Pedro Munoz, this would be like the easiest pick. I would go Rob Font, no problem. Jose's seen better days, but he looked phenomenal in that fight. He looked young and fresh in that fight, and he was a man on a mission. And this is another razor-thin fight. I need to go with Font here. Pedro, like Font, high volume, come forward guy, and Jose was able to shut him down, which worries me here. But I just don't think Rob Font will freeze up like Pedro did. I think Font marches forward, has the volume, stays busy, touches up Jose. Basically the exact same game plan that Max Holloway had when he beat Jose. We've seen Jose gas before, and this is 5 rounds, not 3. So it's tricky because Jose Aldo has more tools to win with. But I do think Font uses just literally a nonstop jab to keep Aldo just a step behind him. But if Aldo comes out here, uses his leg kicks like he did when he fought Uriah Faber back in the day, then I'm going to look really, really stupid on Saturday. But I'm going with Font here. Crazy close fight. Jose Aldo's a straight-up legend. Jakey Poo, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going Aldo, and I agree. If this was 3 rounds, I'd be all in on Aldo. 5 rounds, I'm a little bit more reluctant. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Rob Font. I think the key for Jose Aldo in this fight is leg kicks and level changes. I think if he just straight up tries to box Rob Font, he could have some success early, but I think he probably fades late. He's got to mix in some takedowns. You saw Garbrandt had success with the takedowns. He couldn't really hold him down, but he was able to win rounds. He was still getting beat up, but Jose's not going to get beat up as much as Garbrandt was. And you also saw late in that fight, Garbrandt had some real success with going to the body and then the head. Garbrandt's one of those people that has the speed that he can really mix in those quick combos of body head, boom, boom, with those 3-4 punch combos, where Jose is the exact same build as Garbrandt in regard to the speed and precision in that striking. So I want to see a lot of leg kicks, a few level changes each round, and work the body of Rob Font and really try and slow him down, slow down that jab. You do that with the leg kick, speed up that lead leg, go to the body. That jab doesn't get quite as sharp, and then you can find a way to win maybe in that third round if you beat him up enough. But the longer this fight goes, I think it favors Rob Font. I'm going with Jose. I don't love the play, but I just think he's so savvy and such a veteran. And he seems like he's really dedicated to this camp. I think after his last fight, he even went and worked with a bunch of boxers and stuff to really improve and tighten up his boxing, knowing that he was going to fight that Rob Font with that jab. So I'll see some increased head movement with Jose, some leg kicks, some level changes, and he can win. I don't love it, but he's going to be my pick.
Well, this is another one where the brain is going with Font, but I guarantee as soon as they touch gloves, my whole body is just going to be rooting for Jose Aldo. Jill, thank you so much for the donation. Very, very appreciated. And same to you, Joey. Joey's birthday is this Saturday for the fights. Thank you very much. You said after Font gets this win, I'll love to see Rob Font versus Max Holloway at some point in insane striking match. Thank you very much. Danny boy, what are your thoughts?
Man, this is a tough one. I mean, if you asked me this before the Munoz fight, I'd say Rob Font all day. I still think Rob Font is going to win this fight because it's a 5-round fight. But, man, Jose Aldo surprised me last fight. I thought he was going to lose that fight. I thought that was going to be the fight where we started to see kind of the end of Jose Aldo. And he shocked me. He was on point. He looked great against an unbelievable fighter. So, man, I can't count him out. I like him. I like Jose Aldo if he gets to that plus 150-ish mark again. I'm gonna put him in some sort of bet. I want him to win. I'm rooting for him. I just have a feeling Rob Font is going to be younger. It's going to be close early, but I think later on Rob Font's gonna win the fight and eat on the 4th and 5th round. I could see this being a split decision with a bunch of back and forth exchanges. And I just see Jose Aldo being a little slower, a couple punches less, and Rob Font taking a close one. So hope I'm wrong. Hope Jose wins, but I don't know. It's a tough one to call.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I guarantee as soon as this fight starts, just every part of me is going to be rooting for Jose Aldo immediately. That guy's the best. I think it's just a tricky matchup. Youth, speed, jab. It's just a lot going for him.
And actually, the line
he comes out and looks great again this fight. Then we're gonna have to start telling the story differently. That he lied about his
he's younger
age.
than
He's 10 years younger. So just next time we'll tell it that way.
He started pro fighting at 12 years old.
Jacob,
He's
what are you
only
saying about
15,
the line?
guys. He's got a long career ahead of him.
Yeah, the line's moving the other way. He's at plus 115 now. Aldo is.
Yeah, it's getting tighter. Yeah, that makes sense. DraftKings, I imagine whatever side you're on. I think Font's a good price at 84. Aldo's definitely a really good price at 78. It's 5 rounds. I saw who said that in the comments. Jill Mbe, one of you said Jill did. You said if it goes to a decision, it won't be good for DraftKings because it's all stand-up. You know, I do think it is still 5 rounds, and we're talking $8,400, $7,800. Even in a striking decision win, you could probably still get, 80, 90 points out of it. So they may be worth it depending what your lineup looks like. Jake, you have Aldo in your lineup at 7,800. That's a good price.
No.
Oh, okay.
I already have. We mentioned earlier. I think a $7,100 fighter and a $6,600 fighter. I don't need Aldo in there. The rest will be.
They have a line yet for Jared Vanderaa, my boy.
Not yet. Not in DraftKings. There is a betting line. I picked them. We're not going backwards, Dan. We're not going backwards.
I'm sorry, Angelo. I'm sorry.
We had this discussion.
We'll have to edit this out. I broke the protocol. I'm sorry.
We
plus
talked
175 for Vanderaa.
Guys, the monkey knife
fight cuts to 265. He's fighting a small light heavyweight.
Vanderaa should be a plus 400.
Guys, we are the monkey knife fight line 137.
Hey, let's talk about Bellator. You want to talk about Bellator?
And you're muted. Okay. Just took care of that problem for everybody. The monkey knife fight line, Jacob, we got 137 and 105. What are your thoughts there?
I think Font had like 180 total strikes versus Garbrandt or something like that. I could see this fight the exact same way. And it could even be more because obviously he had to deal with the takedowns versus Garbrandt. Aldo could take him down if he wants to. I just don't know if he's going to. I think this could be like, could break records. With these two strikers, the way they strike, it could break striking records. Obviously, I think, Max probably has those records, whatever.
Yeah.
But and this could be wild. This could be like both close to 200 strikes.
I agree. I think more and more is definitely the play. I mean, obviously, either one of them could get knocked out. Like they both. Jose is a little older, right? Rob could just jab him up, knock him out. It's almost what Piotr did. Just take a little longer because they're not the same power. And Jose can just catch Rob on an entry because his counter striking is so good. But I do think it goes the distance or close to it. More and more for me. Dan, stop talking trash about me in the live chat and just very quickly, more and more, less. What are your thoughts on the monkey knife fight strike line?
Oh, very quickly. In that case, let's break down each fider's attributes.
I'll just mute you and that's the end of it. You know how I operate.
I'll go right back to the chat and just, you're holding back me from giving the people tips that are going to make them money. Kyoji Horiguchi, Bellator, Friday night, easy money, people. I'm going to go with, I don't know, more.
Yeah. All right. Just great insight there. Appreciate that. So
you said very quick.
No, this is an awesome main event. In all seriousness, this is a fantastic fight. It's better for the division if Rob Font wins. It's better for the fans if Jose Aldo wins because that guy has given so much to us, and it'd be awesome.
Who says it's better for the division?
Because you want to build up young.
Wins, you could have, Jose honestly could have a Glover type run at the end of his career where he challenges for the title again. It's a new division. He's looked fine. I think you have a Glover type run and challenge for the title again.
I would love that. I just young.
Well, you said it'd be better for you, so you're contradicting yourself.
I do. Either way, thank you all very much. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. I've said this 100 times, but if you make a deposit with any of our 5 online betting partners, we will go ahead and send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and supporting our partners. wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit, let us know, and I'll pay you $50. It is literally that simple. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, however you want it. Thank you all very much. Keep this conversation going on
Bing
our
bong.
Discord. Ping pong. On
Bing
our
bong.
Discord. Their link is in the description. Thank you all very much. I don't know what kind of live streaming we'll do Saturday, but I'll let you know. We'll see you then. Full final recap videos on Friday. See you guys. Dan, say goodbye to the people, please.
Later, everybody. Kyoji Oraguchi parlayed with ping pong, badminton, and I hit 3 legs of a 4-leg parlay. All football, complete guesses. Just throwing darts.
I won big on Mike Perry this weekend, baby. Mikey.
I saw that.
Mikey.
Shut it down. Thanks, guys. All seriousness, thank you all very much.
Oh, we're still live, man.